It's lights, camera, action over here, boy. I'm the paparazzi's finest. Sit back and watch the show. The fire burning my soul, the passion in my eyes. My people starve, the hunger pains feed my desire. And I desire a throne, a scepter with a castle. I'm the king of this jungle, they call me Mufasa. It's simple, I'm stunning these dudes. On my Usain Bolt, yeah, I'm running these dudes. I try to explain, I'm not the norm. When I'm in red form, we still on the runway. I ain't even airborne. Keep my windows tinted so they don't know who's in it. I ain't afraid of the dark, I was raised in it. My sins is unrepentant, my words is authentic. I tried to come clean, my heart wasn't in it. Lazy boy living, the squad is so turned. Shaking their heads like men and boys that never learn. Who gon' stop me though? Until the curtain closed, pull up a chair, sit back and watch the show. You know, say my name in the streets and they say stop the guy. I can feel the hate, yeah they pray that I fall. Sit back and watch the show. You know, say my name in the streets and they say stop the guy. I can feel the hate, yeah they pray that I fall. Sit back and watch the show. I got champagne wishes and caviar dreams. Had them haters bow down and kiss the ring. They offer the inch, I took the whole thing. My side piece is ratchet, but my lady's a queen. They ain't loyal, but that don't make my blood boil. The game is deep rooted, I was raised in the soil. Lights, camera, action, paparazzi attraction. What's next for 'em? You know the streets asking. I'm self-made, CEO, I'm self-paid. The game's thirsty and I'm a glass of lemonade. These boys must got me twisted, French braids. I'm so disrespectful, spitting on their grave. I'm trying to bury him 6 feet at the cemeterium. I'm offended the blogs will try to put me next to them. Who gon' stop me, bro? Until the curtain closed, pull up a chair, sit back and watch the show. You know, say my name in the streets and they say stop the guy. I can feel the hate, yeah they pray that I fall. Sit back and watch the show. You know, say my name in the streets and they say stop the guy. I can feel the hate, yeah they pray that I fall. Sit back and watch the show. I've been knocked down but never out. I hit that canvas but never seen more than a 6 count. I'm the reason they packed the arena. I'm the reason these young girls is at the top of their lungs screaming. Camera phones flashing, everybody clamoring. These clowns jacking my style, they wanna be him. Before I blew, I told them what I'm about to do. Now watch the SHOW. You know, say my name in the streets and they say stop the guy. I can feel the hate, yeah they pray that I fall. Sit back and watch the show. You know, say my name in the streets and they say stop the guy. I can feel the hate, yeah they pray that I fall. Sit back and watch the show.
touching on me, I'm getting so good. Go write that check, cause I'm building too much confidence on that heavyweight flex. I've been earning and working, everybody want this. I'm untouchable, stacked up, Greek God. I got the thunder and lightning, energy rush. I've been winning and winning since the day I was made. Bet you wanna be like me. I'm always on top of the game. Ain't never gonna touch second place. Nah, never. I'm always on
Come stand a little closer, I'll drop dead. I know you heard about what I said, yeah. I don't need much, but I need you in my bed. Really, 'cause I can't take it any longer in my head, yeah. So, darling, darling, yeah, yeah, oh, I've been falling, falling, yeah, yeah, I've been falling for you. Summertime blue in your eyes, know you. Looking for a vibe in your life, so darling, darling, yeah, yeah, oh. You've been running, running, you've been running for way too long. Can we find love or is that too much? That too much. Baby, are you down, 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 down? When you touch down, yeah, tag me with the pound. You owning the town, 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 town. Tell me when you, oh, when you touching down, 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 down. So I could come around, round, 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 round. I know that you don't mess with no clowns. I know that you down, down, down. Yeah, oh, we're only starting, but I'm falling for you right now, girl. I know it's crazy, but you know things get hazy when I'm in your world. So, baby, where you been on my life when I was always down on the pavement? I was out waiting in my station, you to lift me up and take me places. So, darling, darling, yeah, yeah, oh, I've been falling, falling, yeah, yeah, I've been falling for you. Summertime blue in your eyes, know you. Looking for a vibe in your life, so darling, darling, yeah, yeah, oh. You've been running, running, you've been running for way too long. Can we find love or is that too much? Need to know. Baby, are you down, 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 down? When you touch down, yeah, tag me with the pound. You owning the town, 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 town. Tell me when you, oh, when you touching down, 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 down. So I could come around, round, 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 round. I know that you don't mess with no clowns. I know that you down, down, down.
all my trust. Now this time is through. All I ask from you is time together. All you gave is hurt. What's it gonna be? Now I'm ready for this love. Don't set me free. What's it gonna be? Now I'm ready for this love. Don't set me free. What's it gonna be? Now I'm ready for this love. Don't set me free. What's it gonna be? Now I'm ready for this love. Don't set me free.
You're gonna sell all that you had before you. And you don't need a bill when you're on the ropes too. Don't tell me to wake up. It's not enough. Asleep on a wheel, not attempting to feel. You don't know who you are, but I feel like I'm in a dream. I'm in a dream now. I'm in a dream now. I never get enough. It's like I always find I feel like I'm in a dream. You feel the rages burning up inside. It's contagious. Begin to recognize. I know you're jaded. Get up and revive. Intoxicated. Get ahead of time. Inebriated. It's time to rectify. Don't tell me to wake up. It's not enough. Asleep on a wheel, not attempting to feel. You don't know who you are, but I feel like I'm in a dream. I'm in a dream now. I'm in a dream now. I never get enough. Yeah, I was fine. I feel like I'm in a dream. nothing like this. Feast your eyes, grab your shades, hit the lights and take the stage. Light the fire, strike a match. This is where the party's at. It don't matter where you're from. Can you feel it heating up? 3, 2, 1, let's go. Never seen nothing like this before. Never seen nothing like this. Never seen nothing like this before. Never seen nothing like this. Never seen nothing like this before. Never seen nothing like this. Never seen nothing like this before. Never seen nothing like this. Brand new suit, custom made, fresh to bid, crush the game. Always know what's going down. Got the hottest thing around. It don't matter where you're from. Come on, come on, come on. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Never seen nothing like this before. Never seen nothing like this. Never seen nothing like this before. Never seen nothing like this. Never seen nothing like this before. Never seen nothing like this. Never seen nothing like this before. Never seen nothing like this. Never seen like nothing like nothing like never seen like nothing like never seen like never seen
PS 就有反动的一个机会，但是再反过来要抓人，这是挖口的一波绕背，后面还有一个无敌，这是正面先看了雷霆冠军 Taco 已经要被电死了，这边交了一个 TP 下来，准备要是红哥，但是泰的往前想要尝试做输出，一个扭曲空间关注了军家，他的还在输出，泰的这个挖口来个正面对象，但阿紫的进场一敲，让挖口拿下了 Triple Kill， 还真的继续往前做，但是挖口有机会拿到 Penta，Taco 这边交了闪现，挖口还要再往前追，就是反击风暴运作 ，Penta 由挖口拿下。那在上路 Long 要被打一波 gank， 先看了武器宗师，但是被盾眼神龙摆尾踹到了草丛里面，还有拼死一搏拉回来，跳伞小兵想要跑，交了闪现，能不能再走？但撤退的方向是对方的家中，回头用圣殿之杖回了一口血，反击风暴晕住，再跳伞，他整个完成了这一波的反杀，他还在冲，其实最后还是被空月队给击杀掉。
打线差距哎，
画面有了，
又开到了，
就是进草盲视野的吗？哇，那看起来是的，往前走，这是一闪接大，
哎呦，一闪接啊！
哇，玩太好了，而且 MN 也是第一时间就开大补伤害，马上定住了2个人，
然后闪爆，哎呦，哇，这个配合好完美。
那龙已经要被 MP 给 rush 掉，
没有他没有磨啊，他
是来了，又是一闪接啊，又是开到了 Atlan， 以及 MMA 一个培训队双 C 伤害补上，秒掉了亚菲利欧，是往前做追击，培训队锤到了后排，在下面的 Nature 已经被料理掉，上方最后一发大颗电磁脉冲带走的是 Alex，
那个 MVP 字卡如果 FAK 以先做凯 win 的啦。
哦，再一标，哎呦 ，Alex 刚才跟肉弹冲击有点小奇怪，且再吃到一炮，
开帮小龙挡哦。
有了 FAK 这边的 Poke 提到之后，怎么开车进去 B 闪闪现出来 ，Solo Kill， 这边吃到了钩子，回头局部敲爆的是 Alex， 再用的是 Pretender 的 Poke 给到压力，这时候两边要拼这个龙，
拼中。
这是拼中举的，飙到，
有
后龙闪现进来，但是被弹到，而是正面凯威开到了 Atlan， 火龙回用 FAK 拿下，上面 Atlan 操作起来了 ，Pretender 再闪敲死 Driver， 这是 FAK 的一波机会，在 Atlan 身上挂了一堆白刀，要准备闪现躲掉巨幅毁灭，这种 Pretender 闪敲，但是反而要被 Atlan 给反杀掉，
下路一波吗？下波团是左边的机会，因为右边3个主 C 都没有闪现喽。这里是 NN 开秀的，看他直接闪现上去，直接爆点。就正面的当然是 Holo 他抢到这个龙嘛，然后NN 就找到一个机会直接切后排，跟着杰西啦，杰西也有一起进。
那在这边的话，这是一波 Holo 闪现的进场，以及凯威的限制。
哇，这个一闪逼了一个闪之后，这里直接爆点。那当然凯威也有在地图的偏下方，他也是直接限制到对方第一派的输出，所以输出只能打在凯威身上。
哇，这个大绝居然砸到 MMA 身上，
这是一个 R 闪，
成功跑掉，回到了下半边，换了一个对手，下一个挑战由酒桶来。
是，
在对上的纳尔来说，依旧不及格局。
不行哎，
他要杀了吗？跳过去追，晕到，直接一个抛眼抛死了酒桶，完成了第3次我们所看到的单杀画面。Kerry 只是看着纳尔，但他不太敢出手。
还有谁？
对面是有大的，直接再推2个，再拍死一个，再个再跳。
还有
对面想追5个人杀一个 Soki 打加速，还在拉扯，不小心命中，但后面伤害不够 ，Soki 跑得超快，继续点，还在打，一滴血不讲，被点死了 ，Soki 1打5，完成了3人的击杀。
火龙泰文小教室。萨瓦迪卡，大家好，我是泰文小老师火龙闷干饭。今天要教我最喜欢的一个泰文小单字，老婆潘格伦亚，老婆潘格伦亚。来，大家跟我念一次，老婆潘格伦亚。这个词要用在哪里呢？ 当动画或者游戏出现我喜欢的白发妹子的时候，就会称呼她为老婆潘格雷亚。萨瓦迪卡。果然就是要白发妹子才够香啊！这就是我要的老婆潘格雷亚。
哼，就算你再怎么喜欢我，这版本你还是只能当工具人上路。
萨瓦迪卡。
今天教的同学们有记住吗？我们下堂课见，拉弓。
你爱上了？
我不讨厌。
你要带这去 Seven？
对啊，
还是你礼拜五、礼拜四就带这个？
礼拜四带这个。
你到底做了什么？店员说什么
啊？
店员说
我问他，你觉得我这样好看吗？
然后呢？
他觉得我应该把脸露出来。
确实，脸要做露出来啊！你后面头发好短哦。
不是啊，不是啊，少林足球也没露出来啊。没看过少林足球是吧？好啦，皮特啊，受不了了，好痒。
And man, Helpic's just backing off.
Yeah, I think PSG playing this really smart.
Wacko just immediately kills with the electrocute, and IC8 good wild grove onto Junjia. Junjia might be dead here to Tide, but Wacko almost untouched in this fight. Ozzy coming in, landing a massive kill, looking for the quadra. Can we see the pentakill here? It'll be the first one of the PCS.
I think he's got it.
Yeah, there we go. First pentakill of the PCS, and we're finally finding out why you don't give Wacko Zeri.
She's already hit the wave clear she needs. Maybe looking for a play on long.
Yeah, looks like it might work out. Nice Dragon's Rage kick. Doesn't land the lockout, but Kasate does go all out. With that extra true damage, he just needs to find one more leap.
And Long actually doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, Long trading back. Maybe gets a 1v2 kill. He's looking for the second, but he doesn't quite get it. But an amazing trade there by Long.
Or pays it back to bot. So Imperial's bot lane once again just kind of losing the 2v2, right? Obviously Driver cleans it up, but I think here was, just engaged on by Kaiwing. He's one of the best melee support players in the region for, a reason. Just so much damage traded over. Alan is already dead before this basically even starts. Driver does come through and last hit him. But I think even before that, the damage is already done.
And Aphelios does have the fun guns. Initiation lands onto Atlan, however, and he is just deleted by the Feather Storm. Pretender really up there, phase rushing in, flash onto Alex. Bit of a weird interaction with that wall there, but Alex does go down, as well as Nature down on the bottom outside of our screens.
Really, they have the better position.
Yeah, Alex body slamming into a bit of poke. Definitely not what you want just as this dragon spawns. And the initiation does come through, but immediately flashed out by Solo Kill. Does use the shield. And Atlan is currently untouched. Dragon is still being pressured.
Gangplank all comes out.
Yeah, Hollow flashes in, and it does go down. Very important to Frank as we see the team fight erupt. Eminem kind of in the back line. Driver can't get him. Alex picks off the Nidalee in behind. Solo Kill looking. Massive ult there by Aphelios.
Yeah, he has so many chakras.
Oh my goodness, Solo Kill might just live. Get this Infernal Drake, and that's a huge amount of power gain, especially for this poke, right? Well, obviously not so much onto Atlan, he can heal it up, but landing it onto Alex, onto Driver, and onto Mission will stick a lot more than it did.
Yeah, so they managed to kind of survive the initial engage, and then I think everything is actually used to kill Driver on the side. Like, I think right now, if you kind of look, Driver, I think gets kind of clawed out a bit over here, but during this whole kind of time, you actually notice that Atlan, he just never lost health, right? He's still full HP, has the Ori shield, and after that, like, all the cooldown's gone, and the fact that he's still alive, also really nice ulti. I didn't even notice that in the fight. I mean, really, really well played by him. Force the issue. I think they're definitely strong enough to. At the same time, might just prefer to wait another 4 minutes for this dragon. Although Solo Kill's bringing 2 people bot, I think you can just start up Baron.
Yeah, Hullbreaker completed. Columbia extremely low, does get stunned and will be solo killed by Solo Kill yet again. Kyrie's and Relia, I think you just lose this 2v1. Although Fear is coming down too. That 700 gold shutdown would be nice.
Oh my god, gets another one.
Yeah.
He's just 1v5ing.
Gets 2. He does have that Hullbreaker. He now is mini Nas, so a lot faster and a lot more range damage.
Solo Kill really is just putting on a clinic. I mean, he's
Relia goes
actually
down.
1v5ing. He just took down 3 people in a 1v5 and he gets his team to Baron as well.
是抓准吗？可以啊。
有没有自信？
可以啊，可以啊。给我拿蜘蛛啊！这个拿。这里拿蜘蛛。走。
团长有没有自信？
有啊。
讲吗？
还是酷奇。
完全不怕他们的伤害。
可以成的。
走。就团长。
船长。
美题。
AD 还有闪的吧？我会往中走。
哎，我要靠，我要靠。
猪妹没闪。
哎，可以，我往上。
往下往下。
套闪吗？套闪吗？
有。nice。
搞什么？
谁掉闪了？跟我说。
猪妹。
加入人。
加入那个辅助而已。
塞拉斯没气。
这个伞是什么伞啊，哥们儿？
我吗？
啊。
我想躲他 W 的，没躲到。失误了。
打，没事，会闪电的。他刚才惹不起你，他敢装我抓到了。
唉，我好亏。不要啊。
没事，我们中学让你弄。
没事。
可以抓人。看我，哎，这个可以看啊。
nice。
小心！有技能吗？拉开可以帮卡。没事。
哎，爹，他没耶。
哎，小心！别！
我知道。
要走。来我 go。我表。
哎，不要骂了，可以了。哎，爹。
对。
他没闪。
nice。我没血了。
可以，先走。
这样就好。
降就好。先降。很好，就有啦，有勾到，我觉得可以。
我在侧面。
慢一点，先走。哎，这。
吃一下。
拖一下。
可以打吗？
可以，就慢慢拖。蜘蛛法吗？
哎，后面有那个哦。
OK。
哎，可以，
我去看他，你们正面，我去看他。
好，那可以看哦，这边可以看哦。来。
我快打走哦，看我一下，看他 ，nice。
往前打。
哎，看小龙，先看小龙，
先看小龙。
哎，来打。
哎，高了。
你可以勾吗？
辅助没闪。
我帮你打。
走，别。
追他！
加入。可以打。
绑住！
下路一波啊！下一波吧，
我去卡。
打得不错。
来，玩得好。nice。
好。
空白今天玩得好，空白。
你知道因为我没有死吗？
对啊，玩得好。
好，谢谢。
champion. Got the heart of a winner. And I'll never give up, no, I'll never surrender. 'Cause I'm a winner. I'm a winner. You gotta keep on, keep on, keep on. Don't let them stop you winning. Keep on, keep on, keep on, yeah. Don't let them stop you from winning and winning and winning again. I was born a champion. Got the heart of a winner. And I'll never give up, no, I'll never surrender. 'Cause I'm a winner. I'm a winner. I was born a champion. Got the heart of a winner. And I'll never give up, no, I'll never surrender. 'Cause I'm a winner. I'm a winner. It's a long way to the top, but I'm good for it. It's a long way to the top, to the top. A lot of people thought that I was tough, but I knew I could do it. I knew I could do it. Hey. Early morning you can catch me grinding. Late night and I'm still putting in time 'cause I knew I could do it. I knew I could do it. Hey. I put in work around the clock, you do on occasion. Hard work pays off, you minimum waging. I'm not like you, I work till I'm making. You give up on your dreams and you only like 3 days in. Fight for what you want, don't quit at the weigh-in. Don't treat your life like a joke unless your last name's Wayans. Learn from other people's mistakes, you don't have to make them. Some people have to fail to understand what I'm saying. I get it, I know so, they messed up, I won't go. I work too hard and too long to make mistakes that I know so. They might talk down on me now 'cause they gave up on their own goals. If you live in a glass house, you should be scared of a stone throw, so it's a long way to the top, to the top. A lot of people thought that I was tough, but I knew I could do it. I knew I could do it. Hey. Early morning you can catch me grinding. Late night and I'm still putting in time 'cause I knew I could do it. I knew I could do it. Hey.
You want it bad enough, you can do it. If you just watch me, then I can prove it. Started just me in a dream, then I turned that into me leading a whole movement. Everybody around me eating, 'cause I wouldn't take a seat when they told me to chill out, they keep it a bill. Now my visions weren't what they were seeing. I get a check now, yeah. Look at my neck now, yeah. Full of baguettes now, yeah. Can't help but flex now, yeah. My come with some commas, can't tell I'm a comma chameleon. That means I don't need to be in your face, you should know I'm out chasing these millions. You gon' see it when I pull up in that skirt. Ask me how I did it, putting in that work. It's a long way to the top, but I work hard and trust no obstacle will stop me till I'm 6 feet in the dirt, you heard?
It's a long way to the top, to the top. A lot of people thought that I was tough, but I knew I could do it. I knew I could do it. Hey. Early morning you can catch me grinding. Late night and I'm still putting in time 'cause I knew I could do it. I knew I could do it. Hey. It's lights, camera, action over here, boy. I'm the paparazzi's finest. Sit back and watch the show. Woo! The fire burning my soul, the passion in my eyes. My people starve, the hunger pains feed my desire. And I desire a throne, a scepter with a caster. I'm the king of this jungle, they call me Mufasa. It's simple, I'm son of these dudes. On my Usain Bolt, yeah, I'm running these dudes. I try to explain, I'm not the norm. When I'm in red form, we still on the runway. I ain't even airborne. Keep my windows tinted so they don't know who's in it. I ain't afraid of the dark, I was raised in it. My sins is unrepentant, my words is authentic. I tried to come clean, my heart wasn't in it. Lazy boy living, the squad is so turned. Shaking their heads like men and boys and never learn. Who gon' stop me though? Until the curtain close, pull up a chair, sit back and watch the show. You know, say my name in the streets and they say, Dr. God. I can feel the hate, yeah, they pray that I fall. Sit back and watch the show. You know, say my name in the streets and they say, Dr. God. I can feel the hate, yeah, they pray that I fall. Sit back and watch the show. I got champagne wishes and caveat dreams. Had them haters bow down and kiss the ring. They offer the inch, I took the whole thing. My side piece is ratchet, but my lady's a queen. They ain't loyal, but that don't make my blood boil. The game is deep rooted, I was raised in the soil. Lights, camera, action, paparazzi attraction. What's next for 'em? You know the streets asking. I'm self-made, CEO, I'm self-paid. The game's thirsty and I'm a glass of lemonade. These boys must got me twisted, French braids. I'm so disrespectful, spitting on their graves. I'm trying to bury them 6 feet at the cemeterium. I'm offended the blogs will try to put me next to them. Who gon' stop me, bro? Until the curtain close, pull up a chair, sit back and watch the show. You know, say my name in the streets and they say, Dr. God. I can feel the hate, yeah, they pray that I fall. Sit back and watch the show. You know, say my name in the streets and they say, Dr. God. I can feel the hate, yeah, they pray that I fall. Sit back and watch the show. I've been knocked down but never out. I hit that canvas, but never seen more than a 6 count. I'm the reason they packed the arena. I'm the reason these young girls is at the top of their lungs screaming. Camera phones flashing, everybody clamoring. These clowns jacking my style, they wanna be him. Before I blew, I told them what I'm about to do. Now watch the SHOW. You know, say my name in the streets and they say, Dr. God. I can feel the hate, yeah, they pray that I fall. Sit back and watch the show. You know, say my name in the streets and they say, Dr. God. I can feel the hate, yeah, they pray that I fall. Sit back and watch the show.
Hello and welcome back to the PCS Spring Split, where we're playing our Tiebreakers today, brought to you by Riot Games and Carried Live. I'm your host for tonight's Shock, and I'm joined once again by Vestian. We've got a couple games for you guys today. It's Beyond Gaming and DCG playing for the 5th seed, and then we also have Frank and CFO playing for that 2nd place seed. So pretty exciting. I think both are pretty important because if you get that 2nd place seed, you're able to kind of skip that first round. You get a bye. And 5th and 6th, it means you get to verse the weaker seed of what is going to be the loser of those 3rd, 4th matches. So it could be pretty interesting. What are you kind of expecting?
Yeah, well, I mean, we do see, I believe today Frank will have side selection as well as DCG, so I expect maybe they are favoured coming into these games. I mean, all 4 of these teams have really been on form recently. I'd say maybe CFO looking a bit weaker in the past couple of games, although, I mean, still picking up wins ultimately, other than yesterday, I believe. But yeah, Beyond taking them out actually, so maybe you even favour them. I mean, taking out CFO is no tall task. I mean, no short task, so... Yeah, no, it's pretty exciting. I think every team has really come into form in this last week, and I think that means we just really don't have any real expectations coming forward into these games tonight.
It is difficult, but I think, like you said, all 4 teams have been looking fairly solid, and I'm going to go ahead and make some predictions. You know, I don't want to be a cop-out here. I think that, I want to say DCG look a bit better than Beyond, although I feel like that one's closer, and I think Frank Esports will take out CFO. But looking at today's matches, as we just said, Game 1 is DCG up against Megabank Beyond Gaming. Game 2, Frank Esports taking on CFO. And I believe it was DCG who had side selection versus Megabank because they 2-0'd them. And Frank Esports had side selection versus CFO because they beat PSG, so it's because of the strength of schedule that they do have that. And interestingly, it looks like both teams have chosen the blue side.
Yeah, if the graphic is showing us side selection, then that will be, yes, both teams choosing blue. And I think there has been a good amount of success on blue, although I would say, like, in this most recent week, it felt like red was possibly a bit stronger, being able to have that last pick counter pick, although not every team utilizing it to the same effect. But especially with a team like Frank, where if you get solo kill a good sort of matchup, he really can just take over a game. Interesting to see if they did select blue, because I would have thought maybe especially them would be better as a red side team.
I think I have to agree. I am kind of surprised that Frank didn't go for that red side last pick. For DCG though, I think it makes sense, right? We've seen them put the first pick Gragas to great effect. It's gone, I think, all 3 lanes. Maybe it hasn't been played top for them yet. But it certainly looks good for them, and I think the fact that Nesty is so comfortable on it means it can always be first pick. It's pretty difficult, I feel like, to be on red side at the moment, because there's quite a few just like strong power picks that can come in from the blue side, stuff like the Gragas, the Sejuani, and then kind of your choice of if those get banned, you can choose, you know, do you want to go the route of the Zeri? Do you just want to take something away? So I feel like blue side is a little bit better just overall, unless you're a team that has like a really strong red side 5B.
Yeah, absolutely. That is correct. And I agree. But we are going to now take a look at team lineups for our first game. Up first, we have DCG, and that is Hanabi, Hana, Nesty, Kriskata, and Orca. And for this team, I want to point out yesterday, Kriskata maybe not having the best performance. However, the rest of the team did fine around him. And so I feel like with how he's performed recently, you'll probably see him on that sort of, you know, Zaya, Aphelios. I mean, he's had some really, really good games, as well as, honestly, Caitlyn of his is probably the best Caitlyn that we've seen in the league. So I think we look towards him probably getting one of these really like late game scaling AD carries that also can do some damage at that 2-item spike also, as well as Nesty. He really switches up his playstyle quite often, I feel, but he has looked better on the sort of control mages, as well as that one Gragas game where he really did look phenomenal.
I think it's the roaming control mages mainly that he looks good on, right? We've seen the Talia and the Lissandra used to great effect. On the other side, though, taking a look at BYG's roster, we got Li Kai, Kongyue, 1116, Feng, and Kino. And Kongyue, I think we always bring him up, is kind of the star of this roster, has an absurd amount of KP. And I think the eye test passes as well, right? There was that one game where he was playing Wukong and he got, I don't know how many 4- and 5-man cyclones. It was pretty insane. And I wonder if DCG will target Kongyue heavily in draft. We've seen the Wukong banned against him recently, and I think that is a pretty solid choice up against him.
Yeah, definitely would seem like it to me as well. And I want to think these top laners appear to me, at least from sort of watching them to play fairly similarly, where you can kind of leave them on their own and they can form their own advantages as well as they do come back to the team and really provide that front line in general. Maybe Hanabi favors sort of the carries a little bit more, although Lakai having some good like Jax games and whatnot. It'll be exciting to see these two and how they match up, but we will be taking a look at the comparison of mid laners here. First in the league for kill participation is Nesty, followed by 1116 as second, so both being really impactful for their team.
They are, and I think one thing that will be very important in this matchup is that jungle proximity around mid. We see 1116 is the man who has a bit more of his jungler around, which is pretty important because both of these mids kind of play more of that secondary carry role where they're freed up by their team and then they're able to move around. Obviously, also both big kind of proponents of the Rise, which is a great mid-jungle combo, so we'll see if that gets picked up. Jace Elise the blue side bans, Sedge's match. I think one thing that's quite hard for BYG is, you know, you've got a lot of kind of bans that have to come through, right? The Sedge, the Annie, maybe even the Caitlyn.
Gragas?
Yeah, the Gragas. So it's very difficult, I think, to be red side up against DCG. Perhaps the good thing you have going for you is you get counterpick into Nesty's pool. We'll see though. Rise is banned away, I think, intelligently by DCG. Giving that over can be pretty scary.
Absolutely can, but Wukong will be available, it looks like, unless BYG decide to ban it out, but I don't imagine they would. And so if that is available, then
surely Gragas. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is the Gragas.
Comes through. I wonder, with a lot of these OP junglers taken away, you could look to first pick the Wukong. We've seen the kind of Ashe priority drop quite a lot. I think it does just mean you're most likely going for the Wukong Vi trade, which I think Kongyue's looked way better on the Wukong than the Vi. There's just a lot more skill expression with the champ, I feel like. Lee Sin would be an interesting one. It's something that has pretty high priority now in the PCS. And it's had, I feel like, mixed results. Some games have been very good, some have been lackluster.
Yeah, I do feel, I mean, just off memory, I haven't looked at any stats or anything surrounding it, but it does feel like it's usually more weak than it is strong. But however, I mean, it's done a lot better than the likes of Viego, which we've seen picked a number of times now too, so don't exactly hate it. And if you've got a really skilled jungler like Hana, you can really utilize that pick well. Xayah is the hover right now. It looks like it will be locked in, so getting one of the premier AD carries for Feng, and honestly, it takes it away from Chris Gardner. I feel like that's a champ he's really had his best game on, that one against PSG.
Wukong.
Yeah, do expect this to be locked in. Kongyue, an incredible Wukong player.
Should be picked up here. Most likely. It will. I do think having the Lee Sin does make kind of Nesty's pick more important, right? It's really important that you have one of those champs that coordinates CC with Lee. Common ones being stuff like the Rise, the LeBlanc, even the Lissandra can be quite good. Now, Wukong is locked in. Okay. Aphelios could be good here. Caitlyn as well. I mean, we've seen the Caitlyn get through the pick ban here. So it could be picked up. Lucian Nami is an answer we've seen before. I don't really like it that much for a Xayah, though, I have to say.
It is locked in.
It will be,
yeah, and I guess at that 2-item spike, you can find a lot of value out of the Lucian Nami using rapid fire cannon procs as well as the empowerment from Nami. But as you said, it just kind of, if you get to sort of 3 items, 4 items, you have so much less impact as the Lucian unless you can find these incredible windows and have, I mean, amazing mechanics, I guess. And I'm sure these players do, but Xayah just feels like it offers a whole lot more to a team.
Jax is the pickup, so I think this is definitely into DCG specifically. I think most teams take their support here, but against Hanabi, he looks so good on stuff like the Gnar and the Kennen. Maybe you can just ban away both of those now, like try and get rid of those Jax counterpicks. I would assume at least the Gnar is banned away. Kennen obviously a consideration. Gragas, another one, is banned out already. Cassante could be something you think about, but I would like to see top bans. Yeah, it is the Kennens first. Will they ban? No, I'm not sure, because we see that matchup kind of traded back and forth. I think you should against Hanabi, just because he's so good at it. Ooh, okay, so Rakana's taken away. That makes a lot of sense.
I think we likely see a Gnar ban here, perhaps the Cassante as well.
Yeah.
Cassante seems to do well into this Jax. And yeah, I would think maybe the Cassante would be more natural to ban.
I'm not sure. I just think, yeah, maybe. It feels like Hanabi's Gnar is... Okay, so they go for Talia. I guess they're fine with whatever top matchup there. That does still mean Lissandra is available though, and I think it works really, really well with Lee Sin.
Yeah, crazy amount of gank potential with those two, as well as skirmishing, honestly. Once you hit that 6 as Lysandra.
Silas banned away. I think that definitely suggests Lysandra could be 4-5 here. I'd be surprised to see it be something else. Nautilus is the hover. Kind of have to feel like Nautilus, Leona just are the go-tos at this point. Kino, I think he has preferred the Nautilus overall. And BYG, I like that they're saving that last pick for mid. I think it's very, very important against DCG that you have that mid priority. Will we go for the lock-in? Most likely, yes. Okay, so 4-5 from DCG. I'm expecting Lysandra. And what are we picking the Jax? I mean, maybe we just take Hanabi's now?
Haven't seen a whole lot of Syndra. I don't even feel like it's that bad at the moment, although Zaya's pretty decent into it. This would also be pretty cool to watch, and I don't even remember seeing a Zoe.
It is Vega locked in for mid lane. I think it's very good up against this comp, but it's an extremely risky blind. And I'm not sure how well it plays in a DCG's win condition. They typically have Nesty very active on the map. Here is mostly going to be scaling, at least for the first 10 minutes. So it's definitely something new. We'll have to see if they can execute on it. They do have a pretty solid team fight, though, with the Scion locked in. I would love to see the A-Soul picked up here. I think it's such a great punish to the Vega, which gives you free scaling as well, while still being able to get priority. So it's a very good counter pick. Orianna would give you much stronger lane, and perhaps is what you need to just shut down Nesty out of this game completely. Also works very well with both Xayah and the Wukong.
Yeah, we've seen Kongyue find some amazing grouped up team fights with that Wukong, so putting the ball on top of it will make it even that much more powerful. And we do have full team comp, so Scion is the choice against Jax, and then we do have Vega in the mid lane, Lee Sin jungle, so quite a bit of gank set up there if you are able to utilize the cage well. And then Lucian Nami pretty much, you know, a staple of the bot lane here in the PCS. Now, which team comp? I think it looks a lot easier to execute BYG's team comps, particularly around team fights and objectives. However, a lot of sort of counterplay on the side of DCG, and if you get this ball rolling with Hana on the Lee Sin, it can snowball pretty quickly.
That's very right. I think there's a lot of snowball potential from DCG. The Lee Sin as well as the Lucian Nami can scale out of control if they do get a little bit ahead. I do favor BYG's comp overall, though. I think not only is it a bit easier to execute, I feel like it's more to their style. I haven't really liked Nesty on the stuff that just sits back and farm, because it feels like he's so good at kind of impacting the map in early skirmishes, and Vega just doesn't really do that in this matchup as well.
What if he has Predator?
The Orianna, he could have Predator, but against the Orianna, it's difficult to get priority to actually move around anyway. So yeah, mid jungle for me, I think is way better for BYG, and that's just such an important part of playing against Deep Cross Gaming.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I doubt he'll have Predator. I just thought to bring it up. But since that sort of Predator nerf we saw last season, haven't really seen Predator come out as much. And we will be now headed on to this Rift. And I think where I'm kind of looking for in this game, probably, I don't think top, we have a sign up there. Nothing will happen there. It honestly could be a lot about jungle invades and a lot of pressure around the Wukong and Lee Sin. You do have the Vega who can really set up nice sort of zoning in the chokes within a jungle, and you have to favor sort of the early game for Lee Sin if he's able to find, you know, an angle here onto Kongyue. But I mean, he's probably one of the hardest junglers to get an advantage over in this league.
And I think as well, he does have a bit more of a difficult time because he just doesn't have the best gank setup, right? You've got the Vega mid who is decent but doesn't bring much damage of his own. And then the Lucian Nami, I think, brings definitely less than the likes of Xayah Nautilus. So I feel like Hana's job is kind of to get his lanes through early game, especially if you can snowball Lucian Nami ahead. You see top laners meeting at level 1. There's a lethal tempo picked up by Jax. We've seen Lakai go back and forth between the grasp and lethal tempo, depending on the matchup. Obviously does give you a bit more scaling, those extended trades. Ward comes out in that bot river there.
Yeah, Spellbook's the option here for Vega, so what do you think of that? Do you think that changes sort of this matchup at all, or?
Not really. I think that as Vega, your only real options are Spellbook, First Strike, or Comet. Comet doesn't really make a difference in this matchup since you can't harass out Ori. And First Strike, again, you get outranged, especially in early games, so it's hard to actually stack it up. It feels like Spellbook is just the last response. It will be interesting. I didn't check his whole runes, but with Spellbook, if you swap to Ghost and have Nimbus Cloak, that can kind of act as a pseudo-predator, where you can just cover a huge amount of distance like that. He does have... Okay, he has Mana Flow. Just doesn't have the Nimbus Cloak. see that Lucian Nami beginning to get some prio.
Yeah.
Oftentimes has to be weak in the first couple of levels, but
I think generally would be, but Xayah not that strong, level 1, unless she is paired with that Rakan, so all you can really do, she's kind of short range, deceivingly, and then, yeah, you just sort of use your Q and you don't have any way to defend yourself from that, it's just a little bit of poke. Was actually stronger in previous seasons where Lethal Tempo would proc from your Q. But I think, yeah, generally we see Xayah losing level 1 if she's not with Rakan.
Was also the tier start by Nesty, so is going for the full scaling here. Could perhaps be greedy, but I think against first strike Ori should be okay. Ward comes out from Hana to allow his Lucian Nami to push. I think that's extremely important. Just going to make sure there's no kind of 3 camp into bot. And if you can have your double range lane feel safe to push, they can put on so much more pressure as that CS lead bot begins to build.
We do see Ignite actually on the Lucian. Obviously not too much CC to worry about, like cleansable CC that is. But just swapping over that Ignite and heal between the AD carry and support here. So a bit more kill pressure for the Lucian even when he's by himself, but a little bit more vulnerable.
See trades coming out.
Yeah,
Fake
massive
takes a lot of
trade.
damage.
Yeah, Cascada and Orca really finding a nice advantage here in the bot lane so far.
It can be very difficult, I think, if you do fall behind in a bot matchup like this, because all your threat comes from that all-in, right, with Nautilus and Xayah. And if you lose so much health that you can't threaten any all-in, then you just don't have any pressure over the lane at all. Nesty is starting to get bullied out here. Is a difficult matchup for him.
Hana coming
Cage
in
comes
though.
out.
Cage will be used, so 1116 has to be careful. Flash used by Orianna, so overall a nice trade there for DCG, and Orianna has to be a lot more safe now against this Lee Sin.
Flash used, I think, is a pretty big deal. Could definitely just be flash caged at pretty much any point, and there won't be any escape for him unless Kongyue is nearby. As we saw though, Kongyue, he has a lot of a lot of proximity around mid, so you have to expect he is going to be here if he's needed. Nesty, it looks like he will be going towards the Rod of Ages, picks up that Ruby Crystal, and will eventually be turned into a Catalyst. Another kind of necessary thing that sort of has to be picked up in a difficult lane like this, just to ensure that's kind of lane safety for yourself. Should be able to get a little bit more priority now though with the flash down. Obviously we'll have to have respect on the side of the Orianna here. And bot CS lead continues to build. Feng's half HP, as well as very low on mana. Kongyue's in the area though, and Sums is still available, is spotted out on a ward. Looks like Cascada will back off.
I want to say it's quite nice to see Cascada and Orca performing well on this sort of lane matchup here, because I think traditionally we've seen Cascada go for these sort of later scaling, sort of losing lane champions, and so seeing that he can pick up the likes of the Lucian and play it so well, and as well I think since sort of Char got subbed in for those 2 games and Orca came back, he's really performed so well on the Nautilus. So, and Leona, sorry, both of them. And so it's nice to see he can still play those enchanters as well as Cascada coming over to this more aggressive Lucian pick.
And I think it kind of makes sense for them, right? They did like stuff like the Caitlyn Lux that is, it's different and similar at the same time. They're both kind of that pushing lane, trying to accelerate yourself. The difference with Lucian Nami being that you're looking more for all-ins as opposed to Caitlyn Lux looks for the plates. But I think it still shares some similarities, and Cascada, like you said, was probably one of the best, if not the best Caitlyn that we've seen so far. So it makes sense that he should be able to perform here on the Lucian Nami. Has to be careful on this window though, as Orca shows mid, clears out some of that vision. Kino as well, gonna get aggressive, and the sweeper comes out. There's no vision around this dragon currently. Will teams want to pick it up? Maybe looking mid onto Nesty's Veigar. Hana checks the dragon thinking it would perhaps be started up. It's just going to go back to his Krugs now. And there are pings on the drag currently with that bot priority as well and mid priority. I would be very surprised if Kongyue didn't start this up. Maybe he wants to play for a gank instead though. Yeah, he's kind of waiting in the wings. It feels kind of hard to force something. I think maybe they could have started that dragon with that priority, but instead kind of spent it not too convincingly on anything, just kind of wander around. They will grab the scuttle, which is nice. But there was a window there, I think, where something could have been picked up. And now Hana showing in bot is going to give DCG the chance to get prior back and kind of dispel any chance of this dragon being picked up. Perhaps it's their turn. I don't think they'll start it, but they are going to take at least some of the vision back here. On the side of DCG, right, with your scaling, I think both sides scale pretty well, but especially with a Veigar, if you can make sure that the first dragon goes down as late as possible, that is quite good for you. Buys time to reach that one item, as well as get some of those stacks.
Waiting. Orca does have to be careful. I don't think he'll die just because of the summoners, but will get taken extremely low if he does get hooked. As yeah, not a lot happening here in the early game. Gold is completely even.
I'm a little surprised the mid lead isn't a bit bigger, but I guess after losing the flash, had to play a little more respectfully. Kongyue hasn't been spotted out here, and he has ults. Looks like the reset's going to come in time for this Herald, which is spawning in just 15 seconds from now.
Yeah, and you feel like Orca should recall here. It does, so will be a little bit later than Kino, but shouldn't be too late to decide much, as nice use of the cage forces out the ward from Jax. Won't have that trinket available now. Hana does start up this Rift Herald as we see Kino and Kongyue head there, so maybe headed for a bit of a skirmish. I don't even know who it favors right now. I mean, I think Sion. I think Sion will have more impact at this stage of the game than the Jax, but maybe...
I'm not sure. I mean, the damage items I feel like are all here for Beyond. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess they have better control, so it looks like it will go their way. I'm very surprised that a tier Catalyst Veigar managed to get this, though. Instead, we'll be at least pushing in the mid wave, and I think maybe some bot plates going down as well. Kino, there's an Ignite here for Nesty. Doesn't look like they want to commit onto it, though. And things, I guess, will just go back to normal for the meantime. We'd probably like to see this Herald used bot. I think snowballing this Lucian Nami further ahead is extremely important.
Yeah, I'm not sure why Cascada left bot there. It didn't seem like there was much point, and lost a plate for it, just sort of walking up through his jungle. But it did happen, and I mean, the plate could possibly be regathered, as you said, if this Rift Herald does go bottom towards him.
Drag is still up, so there wasn't any sort of trade other than that bot plate there, which was nice.
Pings by the side of Beyond going down towards Dragon.
Yeah, it looks like they know Nesty's recalling. Perhaps they want to start it up now. Nesty has the Ignite as well, so can't actually use it and swap to TP. Is just going to have to walk to lane instead. And a lot of priority and bot side vision will be lost here. I don't think 116 wants to go for this though. He might want to reset instead. It's kind of hard to tell. Actually, looks like he is entering the river. The tempo here is not the best for the side of BYG. Can maybe force something on Cascada though.
Kino is looking, but
must be close to 6.
You'd have to think so. Level 7 hit on these 80 carries, but as he supports roaming up to Rift Herald means they're a little bit behind.
Orca on midwave secures the priority here for Nesty, which means DCG should have the easier time retaking this vision back. I'm not sure why BYG continue to give up their control, because I think they're actually stronger, at least in some of these fights, just given the mid-item difference. Lost Chapter versus what was a Catalyst, especially before. But now it feels like it's not really an option. I think, honestly, really good start here for DCG. Just the fact that none of those dragons have gone the way of Beyond, and also Lucian Nami has found itself, I want to say, slightly ahead. It's very close, though.
Dragon started from Beyond, and it doesn't look like DCG will answer. I think he was looking to put down that Herald, but the damage from Orianna means the delay, and he won't put it down now. So, first Dragon is a Cloud Dragon, goes over to the side of Beyond Gaming. Same gold lead still, though, but with Rift Herald soon, you imagine just a little bit will go towards Cascada, as he does do a nice culling to get half health off of Feng.
Fair amount of damage there, and Hana looks like he will drop the Herald. I think great usage there. It sucks that you can't bring down your mid, but Nesty just does not get enough prior for that. Kongyue is behind here, so if DCG try and push this too hard, they could be engaged on. As Flash
Nautilus ult onto Cascada, but good Flash just dashed to get away, so Flash and ult used from Kino to gain really nothing.
Yeah, I think the health bars were just a bit too low to really follow up on it. And that's a big cooldown used. Both the flash and the ult means that there's very little threat onto Cascada, who can continue to push this lane, continue to build up a lead for himself. 1116, interestingly, is going for the Liandry, or sorry, going for the Ludens rather than the Liandrys, which is pretty surprising, given that there's a Scion.
Yeah, even Lee Sin and Veigar pretty much just get health within their build, so yeah, definitely a little surprising.
Maybe just seeing himself as the solo AP here, can look to chunk the squishies out. It is Rod of Ages now completed for Nesty. So kind of hit that point where he's going to go for a lot of scaling. It'll be interesting to see what item he goes for second. We've seen a variety of Veigar builds. I feel like the best one is when you just go the straight rabbit on second. But we've seen a lot of different stuff, and certainly a champ where, you know, there is a variety of viable itemization. Enemy is getting pretty low in this top side, but it's obviously very hard to dive, and it's still tanky enough that the guy can't really take him out, who now has that Divine Sunder and probably can start getting a bit more done. Mid CS lead as well. It's nice, but certainly not game winning on its own. Has the first strike as well, though, so it is quite a lot of gold just there. Despite that, I think because of the plates that have gone down, the gold does favor DCG ever so slightly. And can this tower be broken before the next drag? It feels like probably, yeah. If you can get your mid to come down, maybe. But there's always the fact that Kongyue can be in the wings, so it's very difficult unless you kind of have that 4v2. Maybe even 4v3.
Well, this Hex Flash will be used. Can he get in range of Cascada? Doesn't look like it, but Kongyue now coming over. And with that, DCG will give away product. No, they won't. Hana's looking, actually, and they're able to get away all of this vision. So well played by DCG to sort of read what Kongyue may be looking for, and also Cascada from avoiding any initiation from that Nautilus.
It was nice spacing there. Looks like Nesty actually can get mid priority now, which does mean a lot for this bot side. Culling comes out, but it looks like it's just traded for the Hex Flash. Definitely not the best usage, but will be up in time for the next drag. Herald as well is in 45 seconds. Probably could be used bottle, mid, just try and break one of these. Mid I think would be better if it does break it. At the same time, freeing up your Lucian and getting him so snowballed would be really nice. And a bit of a farm fest for the early game. Kind of to be expected because there is just a lot of scaling from both sides. I think though that the Xayah definitely outperforms Lucian in some of these later team fights. Although you kind of have to consider it as Lucian and Nami versus Xayah and Nautilus, which I think is definitely a bit closer. A minute 30 now on Dragon. Could be the second one for BYG, and the Herald is spawning now too.
Yeah, Frozen Heart for Hanabi. That's a...
Yeah, okay, interesting.
I mean, probably a nice item against Lethal Tempo in particular, but kind of interesting. You usually do see that Sunfire Cape just get completed, but Hanabi with his own take and can't knock it till we see exactly how it sort of interacts.
I can kind of see just having all the extra armor because you have so much health already that just having those extra resistances synergizes very well. Looks like the Herald is going to be picked up here by Hana, and no trade as of yet out of Kongyue, but most likely will instead kind of play towards this bot side river as this is taken on vision. So BYG, they have to know that Hana has invested all this tempo topside, and with two pinks in the bot side river, I think if BYG can just defend the vision, should be able to look to pick up a second drag here. Have to see. I think it is going to be tough for them to kind of keep this mid priority though. Lucian Nami, very scary on mid waves, can engage so easily. Cascada has that ignite as well, so even more damage that can come through. It's like mid wave will die. Even Laklai is down here, ignoring top tower. I mean, he doesn't have TP, but Hanami is just... Looks like they're giving up drag and trading for gold. Kind of like it out of DCG. Second Dragon isn't the most impactful. I wonder if Hanami... It looks like he'll be able to get this top tower, right? I think Lakai perhaps overcommitted to this. Obviously, having second drag is nice, but how much do you lose in the other lanes?
You might lose a second tower here even. Lakai is here to defend, as is 1116, but... Nice chunk anyway. Won't get the tower, but... I mean, I like that trade for DCG, honestly. As you said, it's going to give Hanabi so much tankiness, and with that Luden's Orianna being your only AP threat, you have to feel like Hanabi will be such a massive wall in these team fights.
He is going to be really, really hard to kill, and I think I do like the trade there from DCG. Despite the fact that like your Lucian kind of wants to fight early, I think buying more time for your Veigar to kind of reach 2 items is pretty nice. We'll still be interested to see what item he ends up actually picking up, because I think it does change quite a bit. If you can get that second item Rabadons, it accelerates your AP so fast. Importantly, does have 2 points in W and now going for the Emax, which makes it a lot easier to clear out some of these waves, set them up for your Q. Nesty,
just be
is he
careful.
gonna face check? He could be in trouble here.
142 stacks currently on his Q, so getting quite a bit of extra ability power, and with that, you'd kind of like to see the death cap, right? There's no MR coming through yet, so we'll be doing near true damage with a lot of AP, so.
There are lots of members from BYG looking around mid. The ball's on Kongyue as well. We've seen what he can do with these Wukong ults before. If they can engage on Cruscata or Orca somehow, they could perhaps get something off it, but here we are, 17 minutes 30 in, and so far has not been a kill. Not what I would have expected out of these two teams, to be honest, because I think both of them, a lot of the time, do have pretty active early games. I'm not sure if aggressive is the right word, but a lot of moving around, kind of setting up dives and, you know, stuff like that. Not a lot of 1v1 aggression.
Yeah, we saw DCG against PSG was a really late first blood as well, but I think that's more because of PSG's playstyle and how they sort of perceive the game. But yeah, as we see Hana and Kongyue sort of looking for trades with each other now. But back to what I was saying, yeah, BYG tend to get a lot of kills sort of early on in the game through Kongyue, and especially when he's on Wukong. But this game, nothing happened yet, possibly realizing what's at stake and not wanting to lose the game off of a botched engage or anything like that.
First blood still up for grabs. This tower, there's a lot of members around. The Veigar cage is good.
Yeah, nice Veigar cage, but Kino will be okay. Definitely able to tank up that.
He needs to be careful how far he walks up. There is a lot of engage from the likes of Wukong Oriana. That mid tower is picked up though, and that opens up the map a lot. Gives DCG plenty more options. Stuff to do with their time. Lakai is starting to make headway in this side lane, is currently hitting that top tower, but has been set a little far behind in the 1v1, especially when they traded that initial top tower over, which did accelerate Hanabi pretty far ahead.
Looks like Hanabi might be going for Jaksho before completing Sunfire Cape this game, so will be a little bit tankier, but won't be as capable of clearing waves and the likes. But we're looking here top. Ghost is used by Nesty. Of course, that is Summoner Spellbook. Lakai getting really low here. Will jump onto Hanabi. He does at least trade one. Will he win the 2v1? He does. And I think we saw a lot of power coming out of that Divine Sunderer there, and misread on what DCG could really do.
Yeah, really just not enough damage yet from the Veigar, right? Really needs that 2 items, and that's when you come online. I think, yeah, just a little poorly played. I think Nessie even had the Ignite, but just wasn't really enough. Let's see how this went down. So I think initially, cage placement is okay. If you can place it directly on him, it's better, obviously. But the thing is, both Lee Q and Veigar are executes, right? So you kind of want him to wait, or to try and get him a bit lower. They just couldn't get him low enough to actually deal the damage. I think Lakai probably could have gone for more there, but was a little scared of who wasn't showing on the map. Is going to be the Seraph's second for Nesty, so something we've seen before. It's an okay second item, obviously, but it does delay Rabadons pretty significantly. And I don't think you really need the extra tankiness here. It's an interesting choice, as always.
Yeah, we see sort of mid lane. And honestly, this is sort of how we've seen a lot of the games recently. It's just each side pushes one wave and then the other side pushes it. But whoever does push the wave first, it does always favor them because they're able to get more priority around the map, vision and the likes of that. As we see 3 members of BYG headed down here, just hiding in the bush for now. And top tower's about to start crashing, so you would think you'd want to send someone there. But Kongyue perhaps looking for an engagement.
Yeah, it looks like they're just going to give up this mid wave completely and go towards Dragon.
Teleport from Hanabi was a bit interesting, but he will be able to join this fight already on the bottom side. Lakai trying to zone him out, and honestly, you can't walk through the Jax as Sion right now. Anyway, giving him a little bit of a bonk. Last cone available.
The gold is still close here. DCG slightly ahead, but they need to get this Dragon. Otherwise, very realistic soul win condition for the side of BYG. Kongyue, he's trying to find a flank, but Hana's marking him on the side. 116 without that Leander, he can't quite deal with Hanabi. Maybe can look for an ult though.
Yeah, flash engage, will not find anyone off yet, but nice hook by Kino, will drag Lucian in, and Lakai finishes him off. Hanabi though, tanking up a lot. Dragon's Rage is used, Feng gets really low, and actually Hana is able to pick that up off the side. Cage now used for a disengage, and honestly, I don't know how Hana found that kill, but really well done to take out Feng.
Does the fight here does go the way of DCG. I think they can pick up the Dragon as well. There might be TPs coming back in from the BYG solo laners, so perhaps just want to wait for Hana to respawn. Would kind of like to see what happened in the Orianna, because I don't even think I saw in that fight. Just really doesn't have the damage necessary. Yeah, unfortunately, that blue does reset for Nesty, happens to the best. I think the initial engage from Kongyue didn't feel... He doesn't have a flank. Obviously, it is difficult, but didn't quite find what he needed to. I think, yeah, goes in, doesn't quite get Cruscata, and Orianna also, I don't think, hit anyone. Maybe it hit the Scion. Flank from Lakai was really, really good, though. But then off the back of this, I don't think Feng has a Navori at this point. Feels like he doesn't do, like, a ton of damage. Yeah, just managed to get sniped down by Hana, so... Ultimately, fight was executed a little bit better by the side of DCG. Without 2 items on that Xayah yet, makes it difficult. Looks like Dragon now, started up by DCG. This is still fine though, as BYG, right? You're not expecting, I guess, to get all 4 Dragons straight away. And the sole win condition still remains alive for a bit later in the game. It does perhaps give Nesty time to scale into that Rabadons, which looks like is what he's going to be itemizing towards 3rd. Another engage.
Kongyue looking, flash available for Cruscata. He does get away for now, but will go down to that Orianna. So 1 free kill over to the side of BYG, and do they look towards this Baron? Nami's really low, does have a little bit of sustain, but for now just content with this middle tower.
Doesn't look like they're going to go for Baron, but they get a couple towers, which is a lot of gold taken back for them. I think we're at around a 3k gold deficit before this. Now we're down just 200 gold. Importantly there as well, Cruscata died and flashed, right? I think if he doesn't have flash and dies here, that's kind of understandable based off the previous fight, but the fact that flash was actually available here and he just gets one-shot by the Wukong Orianna, it's not enough respect on that mid-wave, and it's going to make playing that next team fight out extremely difficult. So really big pickup there by BYG to close up that gold gap. As you can see, the gold difference almost completely nullified after that play.
Yeah, and that's not good signs for DCG, although aren't completely out. Scion scales fine, maybe loses the side lane, but will still be a monster in team fights. And of course, Veigar kind of infinitely scales, so...
For sure, yeah. I honestly think it could still be anyone's game at this point. I don't think it's really favored towards one side. Remains pretty much just as competitive as it was at level 1, now 25 minutes into the game. Have to see, I think Feng now probably has the Navori in base.
Baron started here. Nesty is level 16, both through getting a bit more XP than 1116 and that Rod of Ages, but Hanabi at least will be seen on this vision. So they do know something's up. Kongyue coming over.
Yeah, it isn't
Baron
really half
at
HP.
half.
Lakai has the TP, but he's pushing deep in the side lane. I think they might just be playing for steal. Okay, TP comes in.
TP comes in, so what do they finish it? It will be a 50-50. It goes to the side of Kongyue. So really nice smite. He is stuck for now, but Dragon's Rage used, actually hits him in range here of Nesty, who does stop watch to survive for now, but what can they find? One goes down. Nesty managed to trade it back, and another trade as well. So jungler support down for BYG, mid-jungle down for DCG, and good steal by Kongyue. You kind of have to feel like you should have disengaged.
Yeah, the 2 for 2 is good. I wonder why DCG couldn't keep Kongyue out, because I think there's a possibility of you just send Scion over the wall, you kind of league... Oh, it's Cruscata. He's caught out. It's just sniped by Lakai, but I think you have a lot of tools, right? You can Q the Baron and then go over the wall as Lee and kick Kongyue away. You have the Veigar cage, but somehow still manages to get in. I think shouldn't really be allowed. But now, Cruscata going down as well is really good for them. I think the TP flank from Lakai was really nice as well here. Went definitely to the right ward. Keep your eyes on Kongyue though. Yeah, nothing really used, I guess, to keep him out. The cage was actually used to try zone Lakai, but that does mean that Hana's kind of left alone to deal with the Baron, and Kongyue picks it up. Off the back of that, I think Nesty somehow ends up in the middle of the enemy team and can't get off what is so much DPS at this point, right? Nesty extremely fed, and it's really just up to Cruscata to carry the fight, and does what he can, but as the Lucian versus the Jax at the very end, I mean, we saw what happened. His Void Staff now completed by 1116, so has some kind of way to take him out. Look at the damage. As you can see, Cruscata really did his best, but Just so much damage coming through from all the members of BYG. Nesty should be pretty close to the Rabadons. There's another huge spike, especially for Vega, but honestly for all mages. And what can DCG, or sorry, what can BYG get done with this Baron? Probably not more than tier 2s. It's very difficult, I think, to siege into the Vega. If they can find some sort of engage, perhaps could take more.
Vega actually looking for something here.
Yeah, he's in the wings. Look, yeah, he's trying to get something. He has the flash, but it's pretty difficult. Lakai's pressuring bot. Lakai even has himself a Zhonya's, so going to be extremely hard to be taken out.
Yeah, and honestly, the only person who really will be susceptible to this cage is 1116. Everyone else does have summoners up, and without flashing as Vega, you're unlikely to get them in the cage. And at that stage, you're just trading flash for flash, so...
Looks like at least for now, these towers will actually stay up. So Dragon did get a lot of kill gold, but I don't even think they took any towers off it. Dragon's up in 20 more seconds, though. Will be the third Dragon for BYG. I think DCG honestly could just give this up and buy time to get that Rabadons on Nesty. Still strong if they want to fight, though.
It does feel dangerous, though, because as this game gets later, Jax is going to have a better and better time in the side lane, and it makes Dragons that much harder.
BYG, they have the position. The DCG, they are going to try contest. So all coming from topside. Really good flank here, though, by Kongyu and Lakai. They've got the Ori ball as well. It's very difficult, I think. Hana wisely spots them out. Dragon's starting to get low, though.
Cascada will not
find the
find
best.
pretty much anything onto Kongyu. We'll just get out of there with the clone. But nice decimating smash here from Hanabi. As the fight erupts, Hana is going to be stunned up by the Jax. Nice Dragon's Rage, but right now Hanabi will be going down. Cascada flashed on and Counter-Strike will land. Nice bubble by Orca. Zhonya's, though, really getting good use, and it is currently a 3 for 0. Looks like it might end up at a 5 for 0. Kino and Kongyu will catch up to Cascada as Lakai takes down Orca on the bottom side, and they are looking to push to end here.
They are going to try. I think they do have long enough. It's Nesty really who you have to be thinking about with the wave clear, and he's dead for a long time. Just look how much damage difference from the mid lane here. I mean, really showing why Nesty perhaps not as comfortable on these control mages. A couple fights in a row, despite being so scaled, just mispositions and isn't able to deal the damage that he needs. And it looks like after 29 minutes here, the BYG will manage to pick up the win over DCG, and that secures them in that 5th seed, with DCG falling down to 6th.
Yeah, so congratulations to BYG. Will, as you said, pick up that 5th seed, and not the greatest showing out of DCG, I must say. As you said, the Vega not having as much impact as you'd perhaps like, and obviously did get that Rabadons as the Nexus kind of explodes, so pretty useless. Like, I'll pick up having it that late, and maybe it would have been better to have got it as that second item, as you said, but too little too late now. They will be 6th, so still in the playoffs, and honestly, a team like this, they've performed so well recently, I don't think it should be that worrying for them. I think they really, on any given day, could beat any team that comes out of that sort of 3rd, 4th matchup that we will see. So, I mean, things are looking bright for both teams, but on this occasion, BYG certainly had the best.
Yeah, definitely agree. I think with all of that you've said, I want to say that I feel like BYG had the much better read on DCG. I think they really took away a lot of the win conditions. You managed to get Nesty off one of his kind of roaming champions early. He's picked himself the mage, which just hasn't performed as well on them, on those kind of carry champions. And also, I think really did a great job. I really like the Jax 3rd P into the top bands, because it felt like in so many of DCG's wins, Hanabi is kind of that hidden factor, right, of he kind of under the radar does so much damage, or just has so much impact on the sideline, right? You'd often see people TP away from top, Hanabi gets a big lead, and then snowballs it from there. And you kind of saw that happen this game, where Lakai walks away from the top tower, they go down and contest that drag, but the goal goes onto a Scion, as opposed to going on to something like the Gnar. So I think really good there from BYG. A bit of a draft gap, I have to say. I feel like on paper, the comps are actually similar, but really attacking DCG's win conditions and just dismantling them from there.
I feel like the draft gap as well sort of comes in giving Kongyu Wukong. I really feel like you can't. Like even though they did lose that one game, I mean, we've seen just how effective he can be on this. And I really like the adaptation of putting 1116 on this Orianna to really have an amazing follow-up for that Cyclone. Because, I mean, if he's consistently finding 2-3 people with his ult, you may as well have an Orianna ball on top of it, finding massive amounts of damage, and we saw it executed there, particularly in that last fight. I mean, I feel like that was the only one that really did have a great showing in, but I think they're really understanding where they can play through now, and they're utilizing it amazingly.
Yeah, I think that in that other game we saw, right, there was so many times where Kongwei found the ults and just didn't have the follow-up. I think it did happen a couple times this game, like you said, that last fight, but also the one where Cascada was caught on the mid-wave and actually lost his flash, which made the next fight even more difficult. So, yeah, I mean, good signs there for BYG. They have looked very good recently. Like you said, I think definitely shouldn't be a huge loss of confidence for DCG. I think if you go back to playing what you're good at, kind of getting Nesty on those facilitators, trying to get Hanabi kind of on that more carry top, I think you should just see a return to form. And I could definitely see when if those teams meet again, or the teams that come down from that kind of 3rd, 4th losers bracket, I wouldn't be surprised to see DCG and BYG actually take out those teams.
Yeah, I truly do think these teams have really picked it up of late. And I mean, they sort of seemed like the most on-form team. Maybe you can look at Frank as well, but these two teams really did seem to really come into their form more than most other teams in the later stage of the split. But we will be taking a look at a replay here. I believe this is the last fight we saw.
Yeah, I want to see what happened exactly to Nesty, because I think he's positioned pretty far back, and I guess just got Wukong Oriana'd. Yeah, okay, he walked basically onto the Orianna ball and then got engaged straight after. I mean, it is sort of difficult playing Veigar into the Ori, but it's mainly for laning phase. I feel like after that, you're actually kind of fine. And really just not the best positioning from Nesty there allows BYG to kind of just run them over. Because the thing with the Lucian is it's not the same 1v9 late game carry that something like the Xayah or the Zeri is. It's very good at snowballing, but it's more of a... It's not a secondary carry by any means, but it's just not the insane 1v9, right? It does need another carry, I think, to kind of put up the damage on his team. And I mean, looking at it there, the damage really just didn't come out from anyone on the side of DCG. I feel like Cascada, the damage is lower than perhaps we would expect, but team fighting into the Ori, the Wukong, and the Jax, it's very, very difficult to be a Lucian in this game. And I guess just comes back to what we think is a pretty big draft win for the side of BYG.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, honestly, Cascada did a great job, as you can sort of see there in the damage graph, of keeping Fing out of the game. And Fing has looked really good recently, so I think that's something to recognize, is that, I mean, part of it also is taking Rakan away, but really punishing the Xayah pick early, which is your best sort of time to be able to punish it. And then, obviously, in team fights, I mean, there's nothing really you can do as the Lucian other than play sort of immaculately, but it's sort of up for your team to keep people off you. And that just wasn't happening. We saw Nesty getting caught out sort of first in these team fights, and MVP will actually go to Kino, and I think that's really well deserved. He found, in one of the first Dragon fight that we really saw, he found an amazing hook that actually landed onto Cascada, which led to his death, and without that, it might have been a more one-sided team fight towards the side of DCG, so as we look here, he really did his job. He was ahead in both gold and, I mean, I imagine the kill participation too.
It's funny that they've got the damage to gold percentage on there for a Nautilus.
Yeah.
Not sure why we care about Nautilus's damage, but hey, someone had to meet the word count. We got to put something on there.
That's right, yeah. No, but honestly, he did play very well.
Yeah.
And I think honourable mention to Kongwei again. I mean, he's the MVP leader of the entire region so far, so maybe just not wanting to give him another one. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, just the whole side of BYG played well, right?
Even the Kai,
like 4-0. I think 116 on the Orianna had like a 20 CS lead in lane despite losing the flash, and then found some pretty good ultimates. So yeah, I mean, nothing really to complain about for the side of BYG. Honestly, just kind of want to see a bit more of that. But that's it for game one of our tiebreakers here. Coming up next is Frank Esports taking on CFO for that second place seed. So please join us in 10 minutes.
Never thought I could love, I was down to the wire. You took me on by surprise, there was summer inside. Now I can think of the time that I wasn't sober. We're on a high life and the seasons don't mind. You keep me warm on a cold, long winter night. You always know where to go, where to spend our time together, don't mind. Wherever we are, we'll be fine. You keep me warm on a cold, long
cause I can't take it any longer in my head, yeah. So, darling, darling, yeah, yeah, oh, I've been falling, falling, yeah, yeah, I've been falling for you. Summertime blue in your eyes, know you. Looking for a vibe in your life, so darling, darling, yeah, yeah, oh. You've been running, running, you've been running for way too long. Can we find love or is that too much? That too much. Baby, are you down, 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 down? When you touch down, yeah, tag me with the pound. You owning the town, 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 town. Tell me when you, oh, when you touching down, 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 down. So I could come around, round, 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 round. I don't let you, don't mess with no clowns. I know that's you, down, down, down. Yeah, oh, we're only starting, but I'm falling for you right now, girl. I know it's crazy, but you know things get hazy when I'm in your world. So, baby, where you been all my life, when I was always down on the pavement. I was out waiting in my station. You to lift me up and take me places. So, darling, darling, yeah, yeah, oh, I've been falling, falling, yeah, yeah, I've been falling for you. Summertime blue in your eyes, know you. Looking for a vibe in your life, so darling, darling, yeah, yeah, oh. You've been running, running, you've been running for way too long. Can we find love or is that too much? Need to know. Baby, are you down, 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 down? When you touch down, yeah, tag me with the pound. You owning the town, 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 town. Tell me when you, oh, when you touching down, 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 down. So I could come around, round, 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 round. I know that you don't mess with no clowns. I know that you down, down, down. Are you with me? Are you getting down?
Hello and welcome back to the PCS Spring Split Tiebreakers. The one you've all been waiting for is coming up now. CFO taking on Frank Esports for that second place seed. Now I want to quickly talk about what happened the last time these teams have faced each other. Currently, they have a 1-1 record, so it's all tied up. Now Frank Esports had a slightly stronger strength of schedule, which means that they have side selection and they have chosen blue side. But last time, okay, so the most recent one, it was actually Frank Esports who won on red side, and it was solo kill with an extremely good performance in the Aurelia vs Nar matchup. I mean, it was actually an insane game. Now, the first time, so much earlier in the split, it was CFO who won, and I think they also won on red side, and it was mainly off Shun's Kaiser. So it's kind of interesting that despite red side winning both games, the Frank have gone for the blue side. It is kind of looking like the stronger side, but that being said, in the game we saw a bit earlier, it was actually red side that won as well, so...
Yeah, I don't think in general, possibly blue side's looking stronger, but I have to say for Frank, you have to really favor red. I feel like solo kill gets so much done in the top lane, like more than most top laners, if not all the other top laners. He's really good on these carry champs, and the carry champs do like to not be counterpicked. So I find it interesting for them to take blue side, honestly. I really think their win condition in general is solo kill. Like that guy, I mean, even last time these two teams faced, he like 1v5'd in the bot lane with a little bit of help from Pretender, but he really did. He was the catalyst for their win against CFO, but I mean, yeah, going for blue side, maybe priority on other picks, maybe the Gragas or Sejuani, and see what they can get, but I mean, that's for champion select to decide. But I guess it's more about the picks, the power picks, rather than the counter picks.
I think so, yeah. I guess maybe just valuing stuff like the Sejuani and the Gragas extremely highly. Sejuani especially, I think both teams really would want to contest that. It is sort of weird though, right? When you kind of win this game with like a 1v9 performance from your red side counter pick last time, to then go and be like, okay, we're going to do something completely different. Obviously, the meta has changed somewhat since then, but I think Frank Esports' identity is still kind of intact. It's also interesting because I think both of these teams are more of the early game focused teams, right? CFO kind of struggle to close out games and normally win by getting that Dragon Soul, so they're really about stronger bot side of the map and stacking up the drags early, whereas Frank, they pretty much just win lanes across the board. And then they are on your screen here, Solo Kill, Hollow, Pretender, Eminem, and Kaiwing. I think, yeah, other than PSG, might be the most well-rounded roster.
I definitely think so, yeah. Pretender always holds his own in the mid lane. If he gets sort of a good matchup, he tends to exploit the other mid laner. Kaiwing, probably your premier early game support in the league. He really does set up sort of the jungler. I think he does really well of working with Hollow to sort of enable both the AD carry, the mid lane, even occasionally top, especially when it comes to that Rift Herald. And then obviously, as we said, solo kill really just... You can just leave him to his own devices and he'll get himself a lead. We will now take a look at CFO. It is Rest, Gemini, Jimian, Shun, and Slachu. And I think recently this team sort of went from the beginning of the league where Rest and Shun were sort of your talking points. And now Jimian really looks like the guy getting it done for the team.
I think recently Jimian has looked probably like the best mid in the league, right? I feel like the likes of Yubao hasn't had the best performances lately. So yeah, I'd be perhaps looking at Jimian to carry this game, although it is against Pretender, another very formidable mid laner in his own right. And they both kind of do prefer, I think, control mages recently. Pretender early in the split plays stuff like the Jace, and Jimian did play stuff like the Akali before, but I think as the kind of meta develops and the split goes on, it feels like there's a trend back towards those control mages, kind of just mainstay mid picks in competitive. So it will be interesting to see those as well.
No, I think Rest versus Solo Kill is probably one of the most interesting top lane matchups we have in the league. I mean, Rest,
very explosive.
Yeah, Rest has, I think, still, at least it was, to my most recent knowledge, the highest forward percentage of all the top laners, which means quite often he is right up there in your face, which means you can see some priority from the jungle, as we will take a look at the stats for the top laners here. And you do see, yes, he is first in forward percentage, Solo Kill second in forward percentage, but look at the solo kills on Solo Kill, man. That's 14 for the man.
Really living up to his name there. I mean, he does kind of draft for it, right? Very often has a winning lane for himself. And I think actually a lot of those solo kills don't come in lane, but from the side lane and mid game. I think he's very, very good at that. Almost always has a lead over his opponent and kind of finds ways to disrupt what is otherwise kind of a very stagnant game in the mid game by killing people in the side lane. I think that's really important because against the side of CFO, you don't want it to just be that you're waiting for those dragons every 5 minutes, because I think that's something that CFO is very good at. If you can make lots of stuff happen outside of that, I think that's where CFO kind of starts to struggle. So I honestly would maybe favor Frank Esports up in this matchup.
I think so too, especially with how the sort of meta has developed. We will now be heading, however, into Champion Select. We see Ash Caitlyn banned for Frank Esports, so taking away a bit of that sort of bot lane kingdom, and then Jace Nautilus is the answer from CFO. So currently, no targeting towards the top lane, which I think gives us... I mean, it could mean we get a boring top lane or an exciting one.
3 ADC bans, although Ash is kind of more of a support, sometimes a flex. But a lot of respect for that CFO bot lane. Leona Nautilus also banned away against Kaiwing, so respecting him as kind of one of those catalysts of that team. You mentioned solo kill before, but Kaiwing also kind of starts off the engage a lot of the time. Now, Sedge is up and Gragas is up. I think I value Sedge higher for these teams. Would expect to see locked in. I mean, both teams are very comfortable on a lot of those melee carries, especially in top. Really hope it's the Sedge. Yeah, good start here, I think, for Frank Esports. CFO, you've given that through very deliberately, so what is your answer to it? Are you just going to go for kind of the meta Wukong and Vi? I feel like they might... I don't know. CFO aren't ones to play off meta very often, but giving over Sedge without a great trade for it would be a little interesting. I mean, they take the Xayah, which I like.
Yeah, really valuing that Xayah pick. Now, Gemini has had like a lot of... I want to say the most memorable games for me out of him are Vi. So I would sort of expect him to pick it, knowing what the stakes are in this game. I don't think we've seen his Lee Sin, but again, his Vi has been so solid. I feel like you do just lock this in, and it gives you nice brawling potential, although depending on the solo laners, it's probably going to be weaker than Sejuani, at least in the early stages.
So Frank Esports, you can't take the Jace. You can't match that up. I think maybe take an ADC plus Jax or Cassante.
Yeah, I feel like you definitely take an ADC here. You don't want... I mean, obviously you're the people who did limit that pull, but you don't want it to then get limited even further. Aphelios has been seen to do quite well into the Xayah. At least it's kind of just an even...
Yeah, it's a good trade, I think.
And now what do you take here? I think Thresh would be nice, and it is another playmaking sort of support, which Kaiwing does thrive on. And
I actually think I might like taking the support here more, just because a lot of supports have been banned out already, right? The Leona Nautilus targeted away. If you could get something like the Thresh, I think it gives Aphelios that kind of get out of jail free card for the Vial, as well as just, as you said, playmaker support, which I think suits Kaiwing. So far, really liking what Frank Esports is showing. Do you go for the Rakan? I mean, we've seen this matchup a few times. Kind of comes down to a lot of skill, right? Can that Rakan engage be flayed away? Sometimes it can. Alternatively, you could take something like the Jax into 2 bans.
Yeah, possibly looking for that. And if the Jax or Gnar, I don't think he'll pick... I mean, maybe Gnar into banning Aurelia, but we saw what happened last time he blinded Gnar into solo kills Aurelia. It was an absolute stomp, so it is locked in. So you have to feel like first ban here for CFO likely to be Aurelia. I don't think they can afford to give that over.
Pretty intelligent draft response, I think, from CFO. I think with this, you can ban out 2 tops and probably force a pretty decent matchup for Gnar. Like, if you ban something like the Aurelia and say... I don't know, if we just ban like Aurelia Cassante, then you end up with, what, you'll verse Jax, I guess? Or perhaps Aurelia Jax is a better ban, and then you verse Cassante as Gnar. You can definitely end up with some good stuff here.
Yeah, it must be said though, Solo Kill has had some really nice games on Gangplank as well, and I feel like Gangplank getting a lane where he's more or less just allowed to farm does benefit that champion. One of the people have DC'd from Champion Select, I'm now finding out, so just a bit of a pause, get back into that Champion Select and we'll be back underway, but I think first ban has to be Aurelia here.
It was banned out.
Oh, was? Sorry, I didn't see that.
It was banned out. I think the GP is interesting, right? Because it is a solid matchup. I think it helps bot lane quite a lot, but it doesn't synergize that well with the Sejuani. It's still like a solid front line for you, so it's not awful, right? Like, I think you don't need to all in on melees with Sejuani, but it does make her better. We could still see something come out of mid. Like, I think off the top of my head, Silas remains available, but doesn't look that great into the pick so far. Yeah, very hard to play in Xayah.
I also don't expect this at all, but in theory, if you don't really know what you want to take top, you can also take Sejuani top. We've seen that earlier, and it was quite strong, as well as if you pair it with a melee jungler in that case. So you'll have a lot of power in the top lane, but I don't really expect that Solo Kill would want to really play that Sejuani in the top. It doesn't seem to suit how he plays.
Also, probably doesn't work that well into the Gnar, right? It seems like it would be a pretty tough matchup, I would think. Just kind of get kited around.
Yeah, I would say so. And I think one thing to consider, actually, we've seen this over in Korea, but it is generally with the Gragas, is Yasuo into Gnar. Because Yasuo is sort of an old, I mean, like even 5 seasons ago, you used to pick Yasuo, even in competitive, into Gnar because he can never use his boomerang, because if he doesn't pick up the boomerang on the way back, it's on like a 20-second cooldown, as well as you are able to sort of just dash in and start dueling. So it is something to consider, although it is generally picked with Gragas in the jungle, so we probably won't see it this game.
There still are ways to set up for it if they really wanted it, right? I think Yasuo's Sedge works fine, especially if you have knock-up from mid, like an Orianna or something, but yeah, very unlikely. I mean, we haven't seen it in the meta for a long time. Would be interesting to see what the bans will be in the second phase from the side of Frank Esports. Maybe you want to target out some of Jimmy's control mages. It's difficult because there's a lot of them to ban, and it feels like he's always going to have some to come back on. Maybe instead you just target supports. Because you've got the Thresh. You could ban out the Rakan.
Yeah, I definitely feel like you take away Rakan. I think that is possibly even an obvious one.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter what team comp you're in. If you have a Rakan, it really just can do anything. It can be used to disengage, can be used to engage or even follow up on engage, as well as it just makes the Xayah lane that much stronger. We see how different Xayah is with the Rakan, level 1 particularly, than without it. So I do feel like that should be a ban. I don't see them letting it go through. I think it's just unnecessary. And as you said, like, what else could you ban? The mid laners? But there's just too many to ban out. Maybe you take out the Ryze. I don't know. Jimmy hasn't really played Ryze that much, but it does add a lot to many comps at the moment.
Talia's another one you could target at.
Yeah, he has had some really good performances on that, so that is also a good point. Yeah, but I think it just has to be.
Yeah, it probably should be 2 supports. I think Rakan, Nort Leona's already banned. What else have CFO played? I mean, Slaytrue. Is Ashe still open? I think Ashe might have been banned early in the draft.
Ashe was first banned from the side of Frank.
That's first 3. Yeah, it will be interesting what they go for. Hopefully it won't be too long until we return in Champs League. It looks like actually on the monitor back there, they are in the Champs League.
Yeah, I think they're just getting back to their picks that they were already having. So we should be returning in soon, hopefully. But I'm not... Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you do maybe just ban out supports. I think the Rakan is an obvious one. You can even take out the likes of Karma. I mean, she's sort of fallen out of favor of late. We've seen a Blitzcrank recently. Pyke was even played, but I don't really see those getting played this game.
Blitz is sometimes played into Thresh, right? Because Thresh kind of self-CCs when he goes for the Q.
Yeah.
I think it's like a kind of an OG counter, but it's never really been like, you know, Blitz is up so we can't play Thresh sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's just always been kind of a soft counter. And it is inherently risky, I think, to play something like the Blitz. Much less guaranteed value than something like the Thresh.
Feast or famine.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Okay, but here we are, return to the draft. So it is the
Sylas
Rakan.
and Rakan.
Yeah, so Sylas makes sense. Again, we were kind of saying take away those melees with Sejuani. Really interested what the second support ban is, though, because, yeah, it feels like it could be basically anything. Not sure what Slaytrue would even go for here. Okay, there's the Blitzcrank.
Well, there you
wow,
go.
I'm a prophet.
Yeah.
Say what you want about Shock.
Prophet
but
Shock.
He predicts draft. All right, CFO, 4th pick. Should pick up support. Ooh, okay, so this would be Annie Flex, but I feel like it might just end up being Annie support. I'd be very surprised if Jimmy ends up playing this blind, although if Pretender picks a matchup, obviously that's favorable for Annie, probably could. I think, though, I'd really like to see Jimmy on like a hard 1v9 mage, something like the Victor, Syndra, Azir, Talia even, coming in as the last pick.
Important to note, actually, CFO have all red sort of theme champions, where Frank have all blue theme champions, so maybe they're just going for a bit of synergy there, as well as they're on the correct side.
Gangplank, you brought it up before. Could be picked into the Gnar here. Solo Kill has looked extremely good on it before. Would not be surprised at all to see it locked in. Okay, now what is your mid lane blind pick? Because it feels like there are no melees. There is a Kali, but feels like a Kali doesn't do very well into this comp. I guess it depends how highly do you value having the melee with Sedge. Honestly, I think you go for something else. I think I'd prefer, I like taking away something like the Talia. It's a bit better of a blind. I think it works well into their comp. We'll see though. Choosing between the two. Okay, here's the Talia locked in. I like it a lot more. So they don't have melees with Sedge, but they have extremely good backline DPS and a great front line to back it up. So Jimmian, I think, should go for some kind of lane winning pick. Could go for the Ahri. So I'd like something like the Cinder, Victor, Azir much more. With Taliyah taken away, I think all three of those mages fare very well. Even the Orianna is quite good versus Taliyah. Victor is locked in. Okay, so I honestly think both teams basically got exactly what they wanted, and that makes this game so exciting. I mean, there's so many signature picks in this game as well, right? Solico on the GP, Rest on the Gnar, Jimmy on Victor. I mean, this is... couldn't ask for more, really, for our last game of the regular season.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have what I think has been our most exciting bot lane matchup, honestly, as the Ophelia Xayah. Nothing really happens early, but as these team fights start to erupt, it gets real crazy what these two champions can really... like the damage they output. I mean, we've seen some 10,000 damage fights, and I'm quite excited. I think it's like, I don't know, I think Slaytru has quite a big job in this sort of game. I mean, Vi can be used to initiate, and she does a fine job at it, but you're really looking for Kaiwing to be able to follow up with a nice Tivers to sort of zone out, especially the Ophelio. So I think we look towards that, see how he can do, and I sort of expect this game to be a bit quiet to begin with. I think both team comps can allow for that, as well as neither of these teams are going to want to accidentally throw the possibility of coming second off of a bad trade for a Dragon or for a Rift Herald.
I think I definitely agree. Late game, mid game team fights I think will be extremely exciting. There's just so much damage that people can blow up in a couple seconds, but early game, like you said, I think people are just like generally wanting to scale a bit more. But here we are heading into our last game of the regular season, the battle for that second place seed, where we find out who will be skipping that first round of playoffs. It's CFO taking on Frank Esports.
Certainly is. And I think I want to hear your percentage prediction. You said Frank. You said Frank. How much do you give it to Frank by? A lot of...
I think the draft is extremely close, so I don't think that impacts me really at all. I guess I would give it like... well, I feel like it's such a cop-out to say 55-45, but that's kind of what I think. I mean, I think it's just very close. Both the teams are very competitive. Could even say a 50-50, but nah.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think yeah, I mean, it's a cop-out for me too, but I'm thinking sort of the similar. Although, I will say, Rest has looked phenomenal on Gnar, other than that one game against Aurelia. But it was solo kill on Aurelia, and now it's solo kill on Gangplank, and we've seen him do tremendous things previously. He actually took Grasp of the Undying, which I find pretty curious. I think they did remove how that interacts, like is now counted as range when you proc it with that Gangplank Q. So people have been just taking the first strike because it adds a lot of damage, gives you a lot of gold, but opting for the Grasp for this game.
Also interesting is Jimmy going for the Airy. Should allow him to really take down Pretender in the laning phase. Obviously scales a lot worse than something like the first strike or even the phase rush. Solico, he's starting in the bush. Gonna go on Q rest head.
We'll get the passive auto.
Getting the ward out is actually pretty nice, I feel like, because it is going to be Hollow and the Sejuani pathing up top. And if Solikill can get rest low enough, knowing that he doesn't have a ward, potentially a gank or even a dive coming through.
Nice hook by Kaiwing. Not really a lot of follow-up being level 1 Ophelios. Rest actually half health already, so Solikill doing a great job of just, look at what he's doing. He's just walking up and queuing Rest on cooldown.
Yeah, it is a very obnoxious champion. I think Rest has to be quite careful because it's very hard to avoid these trades, right? They're point and click and very short cooldown. But the problem is your jungler is pathing down the map, while Frank Esports' side, Hollow is pathing up the map. So while Gangplank is not normally a lane that you look to gank extremely early, if Rest gets too low, could actually be in trouble. On the other side of the map, if Eminem takes too much damage, there could potentially be a bot dive. Ooh, okay, so Gemini actually decides not to go into the bot side and looks for a 3-camp gank top. Shows on the ward.
Solikill, did he not notice? I mean, he is running away now. Maybe his teammate alerted him to what was happening. Nice flash. Yeah. So, flash down now, and his lane's not in a great position for that to be the case, but
it should be fine, I think, with Hollow nearby. I want to say really intelligent adaptation there from Gemini. I think if had path bot side, Rest would just be extremely vulnerable. Even drops a ward for him, which is going to spot out Hollow. So, I mean, Gemini's showing why he's one of those, you know, more solid junglers. I think pretty much single-handedly saves Rest lane for him there. Will he path back up after seeing Hollow?
He is.
Yeah, it looks like he will.
There will be a brawl for the Scuttle Crab now. Many a game has been won and lost over this.
As it should be. Both mids, they're coming up. I think Pretender's actually a little bit stronger in this fight, has a little bit more CC, whereas Victor much prefers their isolated 1v1. And they are pushed away from the Scuttle Crab, which is a nice pickup, but I think the main thing that CFO wanted to achieve there was just make sure Rest kind of doesn't get dived, because that was something that was looking very scary based off how the early lane was going. And Gemini did have to sacrifice quite a bit of jungle efficiency to make it happen, but in a Vi Sejuani matchup, certainly isn't the end of the world.
Yeah, as you kind of expect in this lane, being that it is Annie, that Frank getting pushed in early, but I'm really excited to see what Kaiwing can do on this Thresh. He's done some incredible things on the likes of Norlis and Leona, and you do have to feel like Thresh has just that little bit more skill expression. Definitely has the mechanics behind himself to make it work, so I think that's something really exciting to look forward to in this game.
Certainly is. As this wave is crashing and will be picked up by Eminem. Like you kind of said in Champ Select, not a whole lot happens in this matchup early. There's just a bit too much disengage, and the ADCs need some time to scale up. Pretender, though, has run through all three of those potions. Jimmy has been putting a lot of pressure on him with the Airy. Waves kind of just being bounced back and forth. Hollow is now in the area bot side. Could maybe gank Slay True. You know, obviously, is very immobile on the Annie. Can this recall be stopped? Not sure it can. They're not aware of it at the moment.
Likely to be okay with it, though, and just push in the wave of their own and go back also. Teleport now used by Pretender, so a bit of an advantage for Jimmy in now. He will also recall, but shouldn't be losing too many minion as Pretender won't push this immediately.
Can he cancel the base? I feel like not. Rest is still kind of having difficulty in these trades. It's now the sheet and picked up for solo kill.
Yeah, how obnoxious is this?
I wonder if Rest will try base soon. I'm not sure if he can crash the wave. Yeah, most likely does just need a base and TP here.
What will he pick up? I think he has to get some armor. I feel like he's just losing so much health to both the grass proc, Sheen, and just the Q. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, having the movement speed can also be nice to kind of kite out and make sure you can't get queued on cooldown. I think that's pretty important. Looks like this dragon is going to be started up. Ooh, or is it walked off? Yeah, maybe looking on bot.
Nice flash, does land the flay. The wall actually will not completely cut Shun off. As we do land the whip, Shun will dodge out of that and cleanse also used. So I feel like maybe Talia wall could have been used better there, but ultimately we'll get the cleanse off of Shun. So that is nice for the bottom lane. Thresh no flash now, however, so...
It's also really punishing for Pretender to go down there, and he's also too low to return to mid, which means that he loses a lot of stuff mid. And I think it was really weirdly played from Pretender. Like you said, the Talia wall didn't really get used optimally, and also just ended up walking through the towers so early and lost so much HP. So now a significant deficit in mid lane. I mean, take a look at the items. It seems that Pretender will also be going for the Rod of Ages as opposed to the Liandry's, which is, in my opinion, a pretty big mistake in this game. I think it's mainly going to be about backline DPS, and importantly, is going to take a very long time to scale up, since he's not even at that Catalyst yet.
Yeah, and with that bottom gank, I don't know if you saw, did Gangplank have ult? Because I feel like you just start it, like as soon as Kaiwing flash flays, you just Gangplank ult.
I don't know if he had it or not. I assume he did, but yeah, I don't know. It's amazing that that much was committed though, and Shun didn't even have to flash. I mean, held it the whole time. Just had to cleanse. It's Cull picked up for Rest. Actually, Cull for solo kill as well. I wonder if Rest saw that. He was like, hey, I'll get me one of those.
Yeah, it does look like it'll just sort of be a farm lane, although solo kill does have the ability to get Rest quite low.
Gemini is probably going to path up top. There is gank potential, I feel like, onto this GP. There is quite a lot of CC, and he is relatively squishy still.
Flash will be back up now, though, in just a moment here.
Nice barrel there from solo kill. It's just going to deal a little bit of damage. Ooh, Hollow's in the area. Hook connects.
Nice hook from Kaiwing, and I believe Slaytrue will have to use his flash here. Actually holds it, and First Blood goes over to Eminem, so massive pickup on this Aphelios, and that's going to really slingshot him in this game.
That is really big, I think. Questionable by Slaytrue to be so aggressively contesting the try when your jungler's on the other side of the map. It just feels like, honestly, you're probably not allowed to be there and is, as a result, punished for it. Maybe could have flashed out, but I think it would have just been Sejuani following. Not sure if he actually would have got out. Could have maybe denied the kill on Aphelios, giving it to someone else instead. Frank Esports, after getting that, also pick up the drag. And while it is Herald for the side of CFO, currently I'm liking what Frank Esports is showing. It's really just mid that's perhaps a little questionable. I feel like Pretender is going to be very useless for a very long time with his current build. Hollow. He's still around bot, maybe looking for something, but that cleanse is back up now.
And while you say that, though, the team does have, sorry, Moonlight Vigil will land, and quite a big chunk there, but as I was saying, Frank does have quite a lot of damage, so maybe just the Gangplank and Aphelios can sort of be enough damage until they get to the later stage. I mean, there's not too many tanky stats that will be able to come out from the side of CFO, and even if there are, Sejuani will do a reasonable amount of magic damage by herself in any case, so I wonder if that's sort of the thought behind the build.
Oh, okay, so actually goes for the Lost Chapter. I wonder if he just bought that Ruby for the early game and then is gonna... He could go Everfrost, but I wouldn't think so. I think it's most likely he just bought it for early game and then is gonna build it into the Archangel second. So I actually really like that. Haven't seen anyone on the PCS do that so far, so definitely, yeah, like what Pretender showed us there. And I'm so glad he's going back towards a chapter item, because I think Frank Esports, right, they're known so much for their early game, and if they were committing to this full scaling, would certainly be a bit of a departure from form. Gonna crash in this wave now as well. And CFO, I mean, kind of unlike them, do give over the first dragon. What can they get done with this Herald, though? I think all 3 lanes? No, mid has a plate down, so maybe this can be used mid. Also, breaking mid against Talia would be quite nice, right? It's gonna stay up for a very long time in that kind of mid to late game. Gold difference a bit up and down, and remains at only 300 gold at the moment, so not too bad.
Will gradually increase if nothing happens, though, just due to the nature of how Gangplank works.
Jimmy does respect. Oh, Gemini, he managed to get into this bush. All sums are up, though, and it's Aphelios Thresh, so extremely hard to gank. Although, Kaiwing, he's not here yet. If Eminem walks up too far, could find himself in trouble here. Jimmy and TP's back to mid. Gold is fairly even for the top 2 carries here. Gemini's still looking bot. Ooh, Kaiwing, do you want to face check that?
Does have Flash, is going to be caught out. Flash tippers will land, and Kaiwing looks like he will be going down. Eventually does to Shun, but there is follow-up here. The Weaver's Wall used, will pick up a kill on Slaytrue as Eminem will slowly take down Shun on the bottom side. So, really good collapse there to answer the initiation from CFO.
For sure, I think this is looking really, really good from the side of Frank Esports. They managed to get Talia out of this lane, come down. It will be the Herald drop mid and plates that'll go over to the side of the CFO mid jungle, but Shun dying there. Well, the shove just barely misses. Shun, I mean, dying there is really bad. He did get a kill, which is nice, but it's probably denied just as much after and lost farm and plates. Kaiwing, he is face checking, but has mid priority as well as Hollow in the river. And so much is invested onto the Thresh so early that if you notice, Eminem takes literally no damage for pretty much the entire rest of the fight. Just chases people down. Also, the Gangplank ult kind of makes this a pseudo 5v3. Actually does add quite a lot of extra damage on top of the slow. Really nice there. It is the crown. Okay, so that's sort of weird. Did want to build that Ruby into something, I guess, but I feel like it's just... Yeah, it doesn't really do a whole lot.
Well, it means that Vi can never just jump in on you, as well as any initiation will be a bit weaker, but you feel like Victor and Zaya will be able to just pop it.
It's interesting, but I can kind of respect it. Like you said before, there is so much DPS coming out from the team already. If you don't give CFO a way into this game, I think you can feel pretty comfortable. As next dragon spawns in just a minute, and I feel like looking at the ADC items, it should go so in the way of Frank Esports that it's just uncontestable. Take a look at the top items as well. Obviously, Rest hasn't based in a while, but a full Triforce to what is now kind of a mixed bag of components from Rest certainly does not want to fight this GP at the moment.
It looks like Rest might be going for the Black Cleaver first, it seems. Because, I mean, Warhammer doesn't build into Triforce, which is what we traditionally see. Interesting take.
They do have a Black Cleaver on Vi already. I guess it's a lot easier for Na to apply it, so we'll see. 20 more seconds now on the Dragon. I think Frank Esports should be the ones looking for it. Worth noting is that Solo Kill's ult is not quite up yet. They might want to just delay starting it by maybe 10 or 20 seconds to wait for that GP ult to be up. I think it's a pretty important cooldown that they have. And probably need to wait for it. Looks like it is going to be almost up, so probably can just start it and we'll have it available. CFO, they're pinging, I think, to contest this. They're going to face check. This seems risky.
Yeah, stunned up and will be hooked as well. So down will go Gemini, and on the side we see Eminem battling against Shun. He actually uses his Gale Force quite early. Feathers come through, large chunk onto Eminem, but won't kill him, so they'll be happy to back out, and it looks like Dragon will be taken. So second Dragon now to Frank.
That was pretty troll, I think, from Gemini. Honestly, just had no business being there, right? You don't have any form of kind of way of rest getting there. I don't think he had the TP up and was down kind of the ulti as well, like compared to GP, right? GP can ult that, Nara can't get there, and then Shun didn't have the Mythic. So why are you even trying to fight this Dragon? It doesn't really make sense. I mean, CFO, they have this obsession with dragons that works out very well for them when they're the ones in control of the game. But when you're behind, sometimes you need to know just when it's good to give up a dragon and kind of just dig themselves a further hole here. And after all that's said and done, don't even pick up the drag.
Yeah, and I want to say it does feel like this team kind of, as we sort of touched on prior to the game, they really struggle without that dragon. And I mean, just because of that alone, I have to feel like Frank are really, really in such a good lead here. And it's going to be so hard. I mean, Flying Oyster are going to have to do something that they're not used to come back into this game.
Definitely a good point. They're very reliant, CFO, on these dragons. They quite frequently kind of mis-execute some of the later game team fights as well as the macro. Frank Esports, though, I mean, they're known as an early game team, not as a late game team, so I definitely don't think it's kind of like a PSG situation where you almost get outscaled by the players, not so much the comp itself. Although, to be fair, yeah, Frank Esports scaling is pretty ridiculous in this game.
Talia and Ophelio, so I mean, in fairness, Victor, as well as Zaya, but I do think I favour the champs on Frank Esports.
Gemini, they does get blue trinketed out. They're going to try and keep this top tower up. It is difficult, though, because they don't get mid priority. So Pretender can always come up, and Jimian, while he's strong, I don't think he's strong enough to carry these team fights just yet. We see Pretender moving up the river. Herald is dropped. Hollow's looking.
Slaytrue especially has to be careful.
Looks like this will just go down. Yeah, it does go down.
May look for another charge. I don't think they'll get another tower, but getting a second charge on that Rift Herald always feels good, but seems like they're happy to just let it die.
Yeah, I don't even think it gets the charge, right? No, it doesn't.
No.
Not a big deal, though. Ooh, Ignite used.
Yeah, bit of a fight here in the mid lane, as well as Bot actually solo kill, looking to live up to his name yet again. Will he be able to find it? One more Q, seems like it will do it.
Ooh.
Is not able to, so no 15th solo kill of the season for him yet.
So close, and that was a flash trade, which maybe leaves solo kill vulnerable here. Gemini's going down. Should be able to solo kill him, I think. Ooh, but can't quite close the gap. Just
nice
too
work.
much movement speed.
And it is Black Cleaver from Nah, so I mean, I find that so curious. I mean, it'll help against the Sejuani and also the Tabis a little bit, but I don't know.
Definitely different from what we've seen before. Now, third dragon here for the side of Frank Esports is coming in just 2 more minutes, so it'll be 19 minutes into the game. And if you look at the side of CFO, their items, they're not even close to second items here. And if you look at the player gold, I mean, especially for the 3 carries of Frank Esports, they're well and truly ahead. Mid lane is where it kind of remains the closest, and Jimmy, I think, is doing well for himself kind of in isolation here. But it's so difficult, right? When your team is this far behind to put out the DPS you need.
He is the person we said has been looking the best recently, though, so if there was someone on this team to do it, I do believe it would be Jimian, and he's on the champion that really is able to get you to the late game. That champion is known sort of for getting to the next level, if you will, just clearing minion wave after minion wave. Does get hard for him if you get Baron, though, so with Baron coming up in 2 minutes, the dynamic of this game might switch a bit. As we said before, a lot of damage on Frank Esports, so we'll be able to sort of just take it out if given time.
Hollow is going to clear out these camps and then most likely path down. And I think time is exactly what Frank Esports don't want to give to CFO. They're an early game team. They know how to play out the early game, even when they're playing a scaling comp like this, right? Like they have, in theory, quite a lot of scaling lanes and don't need to fight early, but still find themselves with 4 kills and 2 dragons. And that just makes playing out the rest of the game so much easier from then. Ooh, Hook was so close. Probably Would have just been a cleanse from Shun, but that's really nice when you've got a Sejuani just kind of burning that. Looks like CFO will be bringing members down, so they really need to win this team fight here. Pretender's pushing bot.
They do get vision control because of the Taliyah being bot, but if not unanswered, they'll lose what looks like a fairly sizable minion wave in the bottom lane, so more gold missed for the carries.
Yeah, they're really trying to focus on picking up this third drag. They do have the better setup currently.
Ooh.
But it looks like Solo Kill's going to be here first. That's TP from Pretender.
Nice dodge from Kaiwing. The box goes out, but will not find much use. Glacial Prison lands onto Gemini, as well as Weaver's Wall, cutting off Jimmy from the rest of his team. So far, just...
It's not a bad start from CFO, I feel like. You got rid of the Sedge ult, Taliyah ult, and the Thresh ult.
Solo Kill now joining, though.
Ooh, Kaiwing reset as well. I think if CFO rushed us down, they might be able to get it. Can Frank play for the fight after, though, even if not the drag?
Yeah, Solo Kill coming around the side. Will be spotted out, so looks like Dragon will be secured here from CFO, and that's exactly what they need to be able to give themselves a bit of time. But there looks like a fight coming. This is unnecessary. Gemini goes in, will just get exploded. We then have Pretender on the side, flinging rocks, but I don't know why you engage.
It was weird. I think CFO kind of already got what they wanted. They got the drag and got out. But then decided to try find a bit more afterwards and just couldn't get it. So while the drag does go the way of CFO, which I think is very important, buys them a little more time to kind of get these second items, especially on the Xayah. It is another kill that goes the way of Frank Esports, and it was picked up by Solo Kill on the GP, who is already so accelerated already. Now will be even more so.
Looking for what appears to be a collector. Wonder how much gold he has now. He will be close to it, I feel. And Gangplank just, actually picks it up. So 2 items now on this Gangplank, and he is a real threat.
Is insanely strong in this game. Frank Esports, they've now got the BT completed on M&M, which means there is potential for starting up this Baron. They have pretty good DPS onto it as well. Gemini. Gonna sweep out some of the vision. I think it is sort of hard for CFO ever to start up Baron because you will just always get GP ulted off of it. But Frank Esports, I think, definitely can, especially if they make a pick somewhere. And I think Baron is what you really need to blow this game open, right? Drag win condition has been delayed by a further 5 minutes, but you're still fine with this, Frank. You definitely scale extremely well. And if they want to play the game slow, they certainly can. But if they want to speed it up even more, as we've seen them do many times, Baron would be that next step. Solo Kill in that 1v1 manages to pick up the bot tower. Gemini's looking at him bot though, so Solo Kill, he doesn't know, but perhaps suspects. Needs to be very careful. If he shows on this wave, well, he's still hiding in the bush. He might actually cheese Jimmy on the bot wave.
Yeah, if Jimmy gets too close to that bush, he will be losing a lot of health.
Frank, could they look to retake vision here? Maybe even look on Nar top. Looks like he's got out. A lot of pings towards the mid lane now. I think CFO want to try and maybe knock this down. They do, yeah, they're bringing pretty much everyone mid. I think they're going to try now to push down this mid tier 1. Would be a great pickup for them. Makes controlling both objectives, Dragon and Baron, significantly easier if you can break this. It looks like it won't quite go down.
Yeah, I wonder if they could have got that. Maybe just Fog of War. Scared of who could have been there.
There are quite a lot of threats, right? Even like the GP ult from the side lane can always come down, kind of pressure you on the way out. Just playing it kind of slow. 2 items now picked up for Jimmy, who does have the Shadow Flame, and there isn't any magic resist, so it's currently going to be very effective. Still no Navori though for Xayah, which I think is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest spike in League of Legends right now on any champion. Ooh,
yeah, Cleanse actually used, so nice usage of the Glacial Prison there to proc that, and Shun now going to be a lot weaker when we come towards these next objective fights.
Yeah, I think he does have the red, so can sustain back up. I wonder if he can get the Navori by the next Dragon or not, because if you're taking the next fight with no Navori, no Cleanse, I feel like it's going to be so much harder for the side of CFO to win. Will really be up to Jimmy, who admittedly has been very solid both in this game and previous ones. So not a bad basket to put all your eggs in.
Yeah, and with 0 KP, I think Victor will now, or if not now, very shortly be picking up that 3rd upgrade of his abilities. So that is also a huge spike for that champion. Gale Force actually committed by Shun. Flash from Kaiwing, but honestly, with these objective timings, you kind of prefer to lose Flash on Fresh for that Gale Force. No cleanse, no Gale Force now. Still has that ult and Flash, so still relatively safe as a champion, but definitely a lot less safe.
I wonder if Frank Esports can look to turn something here. They do have the better vision. Okay, Shuno's basing. I want to see, does he have the Navori or not? So I think that's so big for this fight.
He doesn't.
Ooh, okay, so doesn't have the Navori. Meanwhile, it's 2.5 items for Eminem. I think this drag, CFO probably should contest, but I think they just lose unless they can play it just better. I mean, the items just aren't here. Slate True doesn't even have his Mythic. Jimmy is strong, which is the one thing the CFO have got going for them, but shouldn't, you know, no cleanse, no Gale Force currently, as well as no Navori.
I think importantly, there is no Navori on Gangplank as well. Getting close to that item, but not quite getting it. And I mean, that champ alone can turn a fight with just one barrel, so it's nice not having that extra damage on top. As Glacial Prison is used here, does land onto Gemini, will get out, and so now no ult on that Sejuani. Rest coming down on the side. Will he look to Nah? Doesn't look like it for now. Nice poke there on the side. We didn't see it, but Shun just got hit.
If Frank probably can just wait out the Mega Gnar and then look to get aggressive while it's down.
Yeah, Dragon now spawning. Kaiwing no flash importantly, but should be okay to sort of hang around, and even if he gets engaged on, that's okay for the side of Frank. But Dragon getting now down to half. Solo kill coming from the bottom side. Hollow walking unaggressively. Nice gangplank ult. Will hit the barrel onto Slaytrue, who goes down almost immediately. 2 kills from that ult of Gangplank now. And then they will zone off the rest of CFO. Can Jimmy find a kill onto Solo Kill? Has to be careful. 1 Q with the barrel would probably almost kill him. Third Dragon does go to the side of Frank, but man, that ult did so much damage from Solo Kill.
I think Frank could even look towards Baron here if they wanted. Maybe we'll just be happy with the tower. I mean, honestly, don't need to take the game too quickly if they don't want to. And it looks like that will be the play instead, but it was honestly just not only was it going to be a difficult fight for CFO to begin with, it was so much better executed from Frank Esports. Particularly Solo Kill had extremely good ult placements here, as well as a good flank. So let's look at this.
Yeah, the barrel too, right?
Ult really cut them off. And then, yeah, the barrel as well. And then to kite out Slate True and not give him the engage was so well played. Pretty much single-handedly won his team the fight there, although CFO wasn't exactly close to winning the fight anyway.
Yeah, bottom left-hand side of your screen, we saw Pretender just pick up a kill there onto Jimmy, and so from bad to worse here for the side of CFO, and it's an 8-1, 6.5k gold lead for Frank.
CFO definitely running out of options. I don't think you have a scaling win condition or a dragon win condition, so all you really have left is to try hope for Frank to make a mistake or pick someone out, but all flashes are up. And so many defensive items here, right? The BT on the Aphelios, stopwatch and the crown on the Talia. See what happened to Jimmy. Okay, so I guess he was pushed up to the tower and Pretender was around with Talia. Oh. Ooh, just got flashed on by Solo Kill. To be honest, wouldn't he have just... Yeah, I think he would have just killed him. I guess maybe he had to cut away the rest of the ult. It's just Pretender that comes in, snipes him at the end.
Yeah, no need to risk it.
Doesn't even need to hit Q on him, I don't think. Oh, it's 1. Let's take him out.
Back to live.
Back to live. And CFO, as we said, they've sort of run out of option. I mean, look at the damage in that fight. Particularly from Xayah, I feel like, because Shun just... He doesn't have what he needs to be able to do well in fights. And I think if you're... For CFO, if your ADC can't put out the damage, you're not going to be able to win this game, pretty much.
And you know what's crazy about that? I'm pretty sure he landed 1 barrel, and the rest of that 3,200 damage was his ult. As well as, obviously...
A couple Qs.
Yeah, I think he had like a couple Qs there on the backside on Jimmy, but... I mean, roughly, like, sort of, 2,000 damage would have been just ult on... Yeah, fantastic positioning.
CFO, they kind of have to take some control, but they're extremely vulnerable to getting engaged on, especially Jimmy, who has no defensive items and no flash. So doing what he can to really put up the numbers for his team.
Glacial Prison will land onto Jimmy, and Weaver's Wall separates him, and he will be going down eventually. Does go to Eminem, as we see Chaos Storm really making Frank disengage, but with Jimmy down now, he's a lot of their damage. You feel like it might just be Baron looked at for Frank.
A lot of ults were used. I would be a little surprised if Frank started up. Oh, they've re-engaged.
Well, Rest has gone in. He lands a massive 3-man now. What can they find? Xayah picks up Kaiwing, but yeah, Solo Kill's barrel will find 3 of them. Almost kills everyone.
The barrel was insane. That was really nice. Really good by Frank Esports to find the re-engage, because I think it's pretty difficult to start the Baron there if you don't have some more kills, just given that you don't have ults. But if you find the re-engage on a rest, particularly before he can get into Mega and ult, that's really, really good there. They managed to pick up the Baron and now have themselves an almost insurmountable gold lead. Shun is 2-1-0 now, so should be able to deal damage, but it feels like too little too late. It's going to be the 4th dragon, which will most likely be picked up by Frank. And 3 items coming in through on the carries. Initial flank, I think here. Oh, this is actually after the flank. So Rest just got hooked and then taken out before. Oh, he actually got the ult off. And then was followed up, but just not enough damage, especially with Jimmy and dead. And the barrel that came through pretty much one-shot the whole side of CFO. Pretender flash for style points.
I think even though Shun has like 2 kills and you know, getting to his items, how do you ever walk forward as Xayah against Talia, Sejuani, and Gangplank? It doesn't really seem doable, yeah.
Ooh,
as we see Kaiwing going in 1v2, he's not scared. Gangplank ult does come down on the top. Slaytrue losing so much health, actually gets taken down on the backside from the sniper of Aphelios. As we see Kaiwing bringing in people with the lantern. Nice ult, but fantastic stopwatch followed by Kaiwing. And this will be 1-0 for now. And it looks like with that Baron buff, we will be getting some towers taken here.
Kaiwing is just making stuff happen.
Nice Weaver's Wall. Rest now is caught out, but will have that leap to get away.
Frank, I believe, can continue to siege. They've still got that mid wave. Do they just want to back off towards Dragon? Would guarantee pick it up. Ooh, TP actually goes in from Rest towards topside. So conceding the 4th Dragon kind of makes sense, I guess. There is really no way to fight it. And will at least trade away something.
Actually, we see the teleport answered on there, but as we take a look at this replay.
Yeah, Kaiwing, he just engages like a madman. Hits the first hook on a Gemini, then flashes and hits another hook onto Shun. And then at the back end, almost hit a 3rd, but just slightly mistimed it. I mean, really, really well played from Kaiwing there. I have to give it to him. It's not often you see the Thresh just 1v9 engage like that. Ooh.
Hollow, he's getting angry. Oh, Blast Cone not
Ult's
used.
not quite up. Kaiwing, can he 1v1?
Gemini turns around. Pretender now gets Tibbers used on him as Airborne goes. The 80 carry from Frank will be taken down. Jimmy, and importantly, picking up that kill. We do see Hollow now taking down Slaytrue on the top side. Shun getting a lot of damage done. What can be done? Solo kill still alive, so you always have that threat of just instantly dying. Lantern will be taken, so right now we do have a 1-for-2 in favor of CFO, so getting stuff done.
CFO, they do get a very important win there. They managed to kill both the carries of Frank Esports, who both had shutdowns, and those go over to Shun and Jimmy, which I think is exactly where you need them if you want to have some miracle PSG-esque comeback into this game. Was just a little misexecuted, I think, from the side of Frank Esports. They were trying to chase into a choke that they probably had no business in being in. At the same time, still so far ahead in this game, 4 dragons to 0, and still up 7,000 gold.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, like, as this game progresses, the Vi just becomes pretty much useless, but if you're going to get almost melee range of her as that Aphelios and your Kaiwing's not around, she gets a lot of use out of that ult, so you don't feel like Vi should be really participating much anymore, other than just a walking ult. But yeah, really giving her a lot of value in that one.
4 minutes on the next Elder and 2.5 on Baron, so most likely we'll just be waiting out those objective spawns. Maybe we'll see Frank Esports continue to force the issue though, because there are no sums, no flash on either Victor or the Xayah here. So Jimmy and Shun have to be very respectful. Slaytrue as well as down flash. Ooh, solo kill. He might be caught out here. He's going to wisely back away. But without flashes, if Frank can find something, yeah, ult comes out.
Yeah, Glacial Prison lands onto Gemini, perhaps not the best target, as Shirali is used here by Slaytrue. Hollow, though, tanking up a lot. Weaver's Wall actually had a really weird interaction. Not sure what just happened, but Rest stunned up there. Is okay to run away for now, but Eminem getting this mid lane tower down is extremely strong as this now 3-item Aphelios looking towards... Oh, that is a dangerous bush to be in, but cease and desist used. Really nice stopwatch to avoid any of that Tibbers stun. Gangplank ult now also used. He's found a kill in this one, and a barrel to take down Slaytrue up there. Shun almost going down too. Solo kill 1v3, and now, this is just fish in a barrel here. Shun doing what he can, but will go down eventually to Pretender. Hollow as well, living, everyone living. Only solo kill going down, but he almost found a 1v3 with, I mean, with some of the most immaculate gangplank mechanics I've seen.
It really did, and I think as well, even the stopwatch was really well played from him. Look at the damage. Managed to take down 2 in the 1v3, make the game completely unplayable for CFO, and I think this should be Frank Esports most likely picking up the win and securing that second place seed as well as skipping that first round.
How exciting. I mean, we said it right. Solo kill is where you kind of look for this team, and by God did he deliver.
And we gave the 55-45 to Frank Esports. I honestly think draft, even in hindsight, was very close, but Frank Esports straight up just played a lot better than CFO, and we've got to start to wonder about CFO because they haven't looked so good recently. They've lost quite a few games and looked shaky in other ones, so it's a rough time to be feeling, you know, maybe not as clean or not as in form as you were earlier in the split, right before the playoffs are about to start.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I still think they're looking good enough to take on sort of the LCO teams. I'll say it, you know, big call, but
okay.
I think honestly that this whole region's looking really strong at the moment, and I think even though they've had faults, it's pretty hard to like say that they were playing extremely badly or like looking that out of form. You know, maybe the AD carry like Shun hasn't been performing as well as he did at the start, but maybe that's just because Jimmy has been playing a lot better, as well as the rest of the league, honestly. But I want to ask you, because obviously solo kill might be the obvious answer, but who do you think MVP? Because I feel like Kaiwing really does deserve some credit in this game. He was fighting so much by himself in many of those team fights. What do you reckon?
I was actually thinking that, like, it should be solo kill. I think you can't not give it to solo kill.
Especially after that end, man. That was crazy.
So much damage time and time again. But Kaiwing, definitely the kind of second MVP if I had to choose one. Yeah, it certainly had a lot of impact on the game. I mean, from pretty much the entire side of Frank Esports, they played very, very well. But solo kill, I think, not only does he perform at high highs, he consistently performs at that level, which is really, really important, because I think that, especially when you get into those best of fives, you need a player that's good in all the games, not just, you know, does really well in game 1, kind of throws it in game 2. And I think solo kill, not only probably our best carry top laner, also the most consistent.
I think that's important to mention, right? Because we have other fantastic top laners in this league, like Rest, honestly, who did kind of nothing that game, and Driver as well, who has had really high highs but really low lows. So important to note that, yeah, that solo kill, if he is given a chance to succeed, he will take it. And if he isn't, if he's on sort of this blind pick and, like, you know, he's just left to his own devices, he'll still do fine, and if not, carry you anyway. So, I mean, hugely important is solo kill to this team, and I think, I mean, that was just phenomenal. I really think he did the gangplank pick justice, and he really... Well, I don't know, yeah.
It's a solo kill special at this point, and that's another thing that we have to bring up about him, is that his champion pool's deeper than a lot of the other top laners as well. Can play the tanks, can play the carries, even play some of the more niche carries, stuff like the Aurelia, right? So I think Frank Esports as a whole actually have very deep champion pools. We've seen them play a lot of different stuff, and that, I mean, combined with their current form, bodes really well for playoffs, and I'd be extremely excited for seeing the Frank Esports PSG rematch.
Yeah, and you know what I want to bring up? I think the 3 best top lane performances we've seen in this league was solo kill on Gnar, and then solo kill Aurelia, and now solo kill Gangplank. I think that has been the most impressive 3 top lane performances, all by the same guy. So going forward, I mean, obviously they skipped the first round of playoffs, but going forward, I think if you're coming up against this team, you need to get him off of these like crazy carry champions. As we will take a look at this replay, it will be this immaculate mechanical move here by solo kill up here in the top lane.
Oh, we're actually not even going to watch that. We're going to watch the rest of the fight as Jimmy and was just caught out here and taken out. As we go back to GP, the barrel. Oh my God.
Goodness,
That's a lot of damage. What was it, like 1369? That was just insane onto 3 members. As Shun, he kind of did what he could at the end, but was really just a bit too low, a bit too far behind. Pretender took him out in rather short order. I want to see the damage charts. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Solo kill, topping it all off. Jimmy, to his credit, kind of did do what he could to kind of bring this team back into the game, but the whole map kind of fell apart around him, and that's always the trouble with Victor, is that you're very good at scaling, very good in the 1v1, but any early skirmishes, any early dragons, anything like that, Victor does not succeed at, and that's kind of where you're looking towards your other members, right? The Xayah and Annie and Vi should be able to fight those for you, but if they fall behind, there really just is no threat there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that too, obviously he did a lot of damage, but Victor kind of just does that anyway, but Pretender found a lot of roams and got the bot lane of Frank ahead really early on in the game, and I want to say too, like, even though there was a lot of focus on this bot lane, both Hollow and Pretender, Shun had a good game. He really, like, damage graph, he wasn't the highest in his team, but he was not getting killed and he was doing his damage, but What a surprise. It was Solo Kill the MVP. Honestly, probably one of the most deserved ones we've seen. Almost 40% of his team's damage, up 5k at the end, and 70% killed participation.
So much extra KP coming in from the ults, and I think it can be an inflated stat for sure, but honestly, I feel like all the Gangplank ults were really impactful.
They're doing like 2.5k damage or so, yeah.
Consistently kind of cut people off and ended up turning into kills and stuff, so really can't say enough good things about Solo Kill. I mean, what a great game to end the regular season on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I'm most excited for is probably Driver versus him. Only if Driver's having a good day. True. Because sometimes it's a bit up and down, but yeah, Solo Kill was phenomenal. It was honestly so impressive. And as you said, even like such niche things like the stopwatch was used to perfection there to allow that to happen. And I mean, yeah, just really impressive. I'm so excited for the playoffs coming up in, I think, 2 weeks or whenever.
Yeah, I think we skip a week. It will be real interesting to see what teams decided to do in draft against Solo Kill, because we kind of saw some attempt at that here where you take the Gnar and then ban away Gnar counters. Unfortunately, Solo Kill has too deep a champion pool, so it didn't work, but I wouldn't be surprised to see teams just take that red side and look for the last pick. As we now look towards the playoffs in the bracket here. So we have all our seedings from the PCS, however, the LCO teams are still not decided. I believe that's decided later in next week, I want to say.
I think it's Thursday. It might be decided on Thursday. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, Thursday this coming week, and then we will find out where they slot in. And they will be coming up against CFO and Impunity straight away.
That is a rough start.
Yeah, welcome to the PCS, fellas. There's definitely a bit of a warm welcome, so shall we say. And then the losers obviously go on to face BIG and DCG, and the winners then take on PSG and Frank. It is a losers bracket, so as we can see, there are so many best of fives that are going to go on. Really, really excited for that. I think with the way the meta develops, not only over the playoffs, but even within individual series, I always find really interesting. And I hope you guys are excited for playoffs as we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, man, you imagine being the LCO teams and you're coming against Impunity, who at times looked like the best team in the league, and then CFO, who were second in the league for the entire split up until today. I mean, that is a rough start. And honestly, even beyond in DCG in the lower bracket, they've started to perform like absolute, millionaires. This has been crazy what sort of performances we've seen out of almost every team in the league. And I'm excited.
Really insane. I think that DCG and BYG, they're not super behind CFO and Impunity, right? I definitely think if you had a best of 5 between these teams, it would not be 3-0s. There would be games taken for all sides. So, I mean, just the PCS playoffs as a whole are looking extremely competitive. I think, for sure, Frank and PSG look like those top 2 right now. But I wouldn't be surprised to see some kind of dark horse run from one of the other 4 remaining teams, or even the LCO teams, right? Can't count them out, especially before we know who's actually going.
Yeah, who do you think will be going from the LCO, like, in your opinion?
Yeah, so I might be making some enemies here. I've got to be careful what I say, but I want to say PGG Direwolves at the moment. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I can't remember if there is still if there's still elimination bracket, because they're on separate. I think PGG and Direwolves are on the same side of the bracket. I actually can't really remember, but I think there's still PGG, Direwolves, Bliss, and Chiefs remaining. Yeah. I think like PGG and Direwolves look the strongest, but who knows?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, we saw them play against each other, at least 2 of the teams, and they're all pretty close, both of those. So quite exciting to see, and honestly, I think that'll shake up things quite a lot. I mean, depending on what team comes, you probably have a whole lot of different things to look out for in these sort of upcoming playoffs. And I don't know, it's kind of exciting having LCO sort of join another region to go more international. I mean, obviously, we've been to MSI. We never particularly do that well, but it'll be so exciting to see.
Oh, don't say it like that, man. Look, we didn't do well recently, but in the past it's been good. But yeah, really looking to see kind of how the LCO teams do in the PCS playoffs, and I think especially because they have some time, I guess, to look at this and kind of be like, okay, do we want to try and match what they're playing? Do we want to bring in our own style? It's always interesting, right? Do you kind of try and do what they do and then do it better? Do you end up just doing it worse? Or do you bring your own style? It's always like a decision you got to make. I feel like the LCO teams, especially recently, have been very kind of defined almost. They're very different teams, kind of like how we have in the PCS, where we have, Frank being kind of that like early game proactive team. You have CFO, they like to do dragons. PSG, all about the team fighting. So there's still kind of that very Bulgarians in the LCO as well, and it will be super interesting to see them come over. But I believe that is it for us in the regular season. It's been 92 games, and thank you so much for joining us. Thank you as well to our sponsors, Riot Games and Carry Live, and to all the production behind the scenes. We have a week break before playoffs, but after that, I hope to see you all there once again for some amazing playoff games.
What happened?